May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Jehovah's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, protect, and protect today's message. Aman. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Osayani Kituya, Ohio. I see you. Manut, Guan, Kamsa, Kamsamida, Aloha, Cha, Son, Privet, Barigani, Aquaba, Madase, Etese. Jambo, Bimini Kofi, the Franco Katana the Way, Bokuto, Bokuta, greetings, grand rising, salutations, Bakwarta, Barakalacha, Anai, Kovai, Khelix of the Christ, Basham Key, Barakachalam, Yakhal Sha'el, Lacham, to the Ike, at Yakhada, Bar, at Ban, at Shah, Yakhashra Mashaki, Muslim K, Shalom, peace everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Thank you for your presence. We appreciate you. Hopefully all is well. Pray for everybody doing well. We get ready to continue in these Passover teachings and continue in the evenings to continue with our 7 last words. We look forward to a word from Minister Yasav as he preaches and teaches on the 6th word tonight, I thirst. So prayerfully all is well and ready for that. Thank you everybody, by the way. But once again, first of all, we give our honor and praise to the Most High. Once again, we give praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Alma, who lives a life that is able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, the website, and or at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Also, if you'd like to help her out with things she does for the community, Changing Lives Initiative, you can feel free to reach out to her or even look at changinglivesinitiative.org as well. All praises to the Most High. Yeah. And also, too, you can email her at bloomandflourish1@gmail.com. That's BLOOM, the letter N, FLOURISH, the number 1 at gmail.com. But thank you, everybody. And thank you for the like, share, subscription, hit the notification tab, spending time with us. If you're watching live, watching later on. The ministerial staff, moderators, SFC, everybody, those coming over for early rising Bible study session, those who've been rolling with us every rising and evening for these last several days. I don't even know last time we took a break. We've been putting in work. That line mode is happening. All praises. Hashtag we be the nation. All praises. Hashtag 7 last words. All praises. Passover about to show up. All praises. Online. And if you don't forget Passover, whether we're joining up physically in groups, or you're going to be by yourself, whatever the case might be, we will be doing that on Zoom at 7 p.m. starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. New York time, on Wednesday evening. We give all praise and honor to the Most High for what He's doing and Him bringing us back into knowledge of who He is and us doing things in remembrance of Him. Once again, thank you for everybody being on early rising Bible study session. If you were able to make it, we are thankful and grateful for Elder Tamara, who gave an amazing word. All praises to the Most High. I love when the word gets us living into the word because basically she was already touching on some things, so we're gonna transition into where we are today. But we're thankful and grateful once again for you being on with us today. Thank you once again to Elder Tamara. Thank you to all of you for being on with us. Thank you for everybody who's preaching, shall preach as part of this 7 last words mini series that we're doing before Passover. We're grateful and thankful unto each and every one of you. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and get ready to get started. We're going to start our same focal verses we've been using throughout this little mini-series of ours since we started on Wednesday. We're going to go to Leviticus chapter 23, verses 4 and 5. Once you have it, say, man, I got it, I'm with you, I'm listening. And we'll get ready to go into it. That being said, shalom, peace, peace, peace. Amen. Yes, it was. And how you doing? As you're turning there, once again, if you're able to rise your feet in reverence of Yahweh's word, or however you're able to reverence the word, we thank you for doing so in advance. Shalom, peace. How's everybody doing? How you doing? Elder Anais, Sister Beck, Sister Carla, Sister Tamika, Sister Sheila, Culture Prospect. Let's see. Lottie Dottie, everybody. Sister Jennifer, Elder Tamara, thank you again for the words. Sister Judith, Mary, Rodney, the Royal District, Viewmasters, 7, Northern Lights, Pinky, Martin, Mr. Stephen, Kenneth, Kukush, not sure how you say it, Scooter, and Sister Mignon, if I miss anybody, Sister Shirley, if I miss anybody, church to my head, not to my heart. How you doing, Sister Deborah? Among all praises to the Most High, Yah. And I look forward to meeting or seeing some of you later on this evening. Those who are coming in to Tennessee, we're going to break some bread together this evening, and then get ready to spend some time with each other tomorrow, and then Passover, and then go about our way and send everybody off safely to continue in the kingdom in their various places as we get ready, as we continue to make sure we're no longer scattered, but coming back into the knowledge of who Christ is, and coming back together as a nation. Hashtag we be the nation. And thank you in advance for the like, share, subscriptions, hit the notification tab, um, reposts, hypes, whatever the case might be, donating your time, talent, effort, energy, the things we do behind the scenes. For us, it's not just virtual, it is reality. Also, for those who even give donations as far as money to help us with what we're doing, we thank you for helping us. And I even personally thank you for helping me as well for some of the stuff that stuff that is in the storehouse is used to support myself and my family, so we can focus on what we do constantly, consistently. So thank you so much. Pray for us as we get ready to go on the Pray for us as we get ready to go on the Word. Pray for us as we also get ready to go on the road. For those who are on the road as well, we're praying for you to safe travels, whatever your work is, that God has you in, whatever your toil might even be. We're asking for y'all's guidance and protection over you. How you doing, Sister K? Thanks for being part of the community. And thank you, everybody, for being on with us. Alrighty. And by the way, once again, as a reminder, before we get on the road, we're going to make sure that the Passover packages that have not been received yet are set out today. So everybody should, if all works well, everybody should get everything tomorrow. If you do not receive it sometime on Wednesday for some reason, we will, if we have to, try to figure out something to send you something that what you need. But we're pretty sure everybody will have everything they need set up, and it will show up to your abode on Tuesday. Only thing that we do not send, if you remember, is the wine. All right? That would be actually very expensive to send and easy to break sometimes when these persons will just not taking care of packages. So that's the only thing that we don't have. Everything else, you get choice cuts of the lamb. You'll have the bitter herbs that are fresh and everything picked out. We even picked out some new ones, again, just in case, to make sure that you're getting the freshest of the fresh. And the matzah and everything will be on its way. So we're excited, we're thankful, we're grateful. And after this, we're going to just finish the last bit of package. We're going to get on the road to say shalom to everybody after we send these packages. All praises. How you doing, Brother Dwayne? How you doing, Big Pepper Stepper? Sister Valerie, Anthony, everybody. All right, let's go once again to Leviticus 23, verses 4 and 5. We're going to say our Bible pledge, and we're going to jump right in. Also, too, if you guys don't mind, too, we're about to we're going to go right into the scripture. If you guys don't mind, please keep a prayer up for a few persons who I haven't seen or heard from in any way, shape, or form that normally are with us and haven't been with us for a while. Keep Minister Tracy in prayer, and I know some of you even have seen her from time to time down in the Florida region. If you can, keep her in prayer and let her know that we're praying for her, trying to be reaching out to her and everything. We know she was having some issues with technology, some other things. Some of the things she uses technological devices. And please keep Brother Keith and his wife in prayer. We know they were getting busy and there was some sickness in the family, but he's very faithful. Haven't seen his name pop up or seen him in different things. Even reaching out to him, never got the response, and that's not like him. So if you guys don't mind keeping them in prayer, specifically, let's touch and agree with them or with each other about them. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this word. We're going to say our Bible pledge and jump right in. How you doing, Foster Wells? Right, how you doing, Just Josh? Oh, I need to invest in a decent mic. Is it hard to hear me? Is it hard to hear me? Am I not coming off well? Could be my voice is kind of straggly a little bit this rising too. How you doing, Deborah Walker, David? It's difficult to hear me? I am. Somebody actually sent me something, by the way. We did try to order something, so hopefully the mic will come on. You can hear me fine? Okay. All right. But we are working on it. And Barak, thank you to the person who did. We're still shopping around to recently, so prayerfully we'll get that. We'll be able to test that out, and we'll have some new microphones set up for you guys soon, prayerfully. How you doing, Double OG, Triple OG? All righty. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. How you doing, Malcolm, the new Malcolm? All praise to the Most High for you. Right, all right. Let's go ahead and get into this. Thank you. How you doing, Sister Beck? If you want, you put your right hand in your Bible, your device in the air, just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. This will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible, and this is Yahshua. Shem Yahweh, Amen. Which in Yahweh Shem, his name, his authority, let it be done unto us. Leviticus 23, verses 4 and 5, they read as follows. These are the feasts of Yahweh, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. In the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahweh's Passover. Is whose Passover? Is Yahweh's Passover. We've just read Leviticus 23, verses 4 and 5. You may be seated to go back to what you're doing in the presence of the Most High Yah. So we pray all praises to the Most High. All praises to the Most High. We have been going over this, doing this little mini-series in the midst of our bigger series now, doing Passover Teachings since Wednesday. This is day number 6 of it, basically. So we'll do one more teaching of this tomorrow, and then on the April 1st, on Passover, we will actually make sure that we discuss the difference between Easter, Ashetar, and Passover, right? But we've been getting a lot out of this, a lot of things of what it means. And so I'd like to bring your attention to a couple places. I'm not going to necessarily stop at every single verse. However, I want you to remember, I desire for you to study this on your own and make sure that as I'm speaking, if there's something that comes out against what I'm saying, to be able to hold me accountable. I am not sent to tell you what I feel about something. I'm here and sent to make sure that we give the word, not an appropriate word, but an inappropriate word, a word that is original, and therefore will mess with the minds of some, and even mess with our theologies to a certain degree. That being said, I would like for you to go to Exodus chapter, we're going to talk about Exodus 13, Exodus 14, and Exodus 12, Exodus 13, and Exodus 14. There we go. We're going to talk about Exodus 12, Exodus 13, and Exodus 14 quite a bit today. Right? Now, Exodus 12, if you're not familiar, is basically where we perform as a people, as a nation, coming out of bondage. It is the first time that we do Passover in the timeline, right? Not in eternity, but in timeline. Exodus 12 is the first time that we do Passover, and it's very important that we see some of the things that are there, the things that are, some might call tradition, the things that are law, the things that are commanded, etc. Right? There are a lot of things that happen, but there's something peculiar that happens in Exodus chapter 13. When we get over to Exodus chapter 13, we see that in all the stuff that's happening, and all the things that are going on, before we're told about the unleavened and keeping the ordinance for the season year to year, and making sure that we recognize we're about to go into the land of the Canaanites and the Amalekites and the Jebusites, etc., etc. We are told something peculiar. In Exodus chapter 13, verse 1, it says, Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, sanctify unto me all the firstborn. In the midst of this, how you doing, Sister Beth? In the midst of this, Yahweh says, sanctify all the firstborn. Do I know the son, Ra? Yes, we're aware that it doesn't really do anything, because culturally, and even, if we're talking about proper etymology and the language and even the words connections that are called hieroglyphics, it's two different sets of characters meaning two separate things. But if we have time to go into that, we can, but unfortunately, that's not what today's about. If that's your way of saying hello, then how are you doing? One of the things that we see here in Exodus 13, verse 2, it tells us to sanctify the firstborn. To sanctify all the firstborn, because that's who Pharaoh said he's going to attack. And remember, even the lambs, right, are supposed to be separated, but the people and even the animals have to be separated as far as protection of the firstborn. Anything, it says, right, that openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both man and beast, it is mine. Here we get a command that says that when we do this, when we come together, when we're coming out of bondage, what Yahweh has for us, he says to Moses clearly to tell us, hey, make sure that what is firstborn is protected. right? It's going to be protected by the blood, but I need you to comprehend that not only am I protecting you by the blood, but I need the firstborn to be sanctified. Whatever openeth up the womb is sanctified because it belongs to Yah, right? Whatever it is, right, that is opening up the womb. In other words, whatever the firstborn is, right, whatever openeth up the womb, whatever is the first thing that the seed, when it was deposited, when the word even was deposited in you, whatever was first given that caused a breach of the womb, an opening of the womb, he says, set that aside. Now, most of us might catch this, might have caught it already, even if you have not. When we receive anything from Yah, and he places it in our spiritual womb, if you will, anything he gives us, we sanctify it, we set it aside, we protect it, because it does not belong to us, but it belongs to him. We would call this a tribute, as many persons call it today. You might even call it a tithe. If Yah's going to protect it, he needs you to separate it. Did you catch it? Right? Now, it's important that you catch it. We're going to go deeper into that in a little bit. But catch that in Exodus chapter 13, verses 1 and 2. Whatever Yah has given you, right? Whatever has been born out of you, first, when he speaks a word over you, and it turns into something that manifests into what you were able to birth due to his seed, he says, sanctify it, set it aside, set it apart. It belongs to me, right? I will protect it, but I need you to sanctify. Do not forget, in this process, there is sanctification. Even when we're talking about removing the leaven from our home, there is a process of what? Sanctification. We're setting aside. We're setting things apart. As we become a nation, you got to set some things apart. Now, before we go even deeper into this, let's hit this again, or let's go to another place real quick to finish this up, so we can get the theme, the foundation of what we're really going to be going on. Exodus chapter 14. When you go there, you'll discover that now there's a chase. And I'm not going to read Exodus 14, at least not anything right now. But in Exodus chapter 14, now there becomes a chase. The Most High says that now I've told you what to do. I've told you Passover's approaching. I told you to be ready to leave and to separate. I've given you tools and everything that's necessary. I've told you when to separate the lamb. I've told you when to separate the firstborn, all that stuff. He says, I got all that together for you, but now sanctify yourselves. And what is sanctified, I need you to, right? So sanctify yourself, protect. Pharaoh said he's coming for it. And although I promised you that I would protect you, it doesn't mean you don't have any responsibility. You still must sanctify what's coming out the womb. Then in Exodus 14, he says, Pharaoh is still tripping. I'll allow his heart, right? I'll give him over to a reprobate mind. I will make his heart harden. I'll go ahead, because what I do in righteousness and letting you guys go, and you guys coming up out, Pharaoh's heart is going to harden, and he's going to chase you. So in other words, if we put these two together for a foundation of today, right? And how you doing, Biz in the Bins? Thanks for being on. If we put these two chapters together, really three chapters, Exodus 12, Passover, Exodus 13, sanctify yourself, Exodus 14, Pharaoh's coming. If we put this together, what we see is the Most High the Most High is teaching us here that the ones who are chasing us are not chasing us because we're nothing. They're chasing us because we are sanctified. Now, if you give me a little bit of time, we're going to explain this. However, allow me to say again, if I may, we see here in Scripture, right, that the Most High is showing us, all praises to the Most High, that they're not chasing you because you're meaningless. They're not chasing after you because they're chasing what got away. They're chasing what they thought they would have control over. They realized that the Most High protected you. Now here you are separating, and as you separate, the enemy who lost you is coming after you. But you must recognize he's not just coming after anything. He's coming after those who are sanctified. Amen. Because they don't rob persons that have nothing. Right? You think you were poor, but really are rich. When we were sanctified, as soon as you entered into sanctification, you were separated from the world. And once you were separated from the world, right, the world who had ownership over you is chasing after Don't miss that. See, a lot of times we think, oh, what am I doing and blah blah, what am I going through? But hey, because I am sanctified, all praises to the Most High. Now here comes the one who thought that he had ownership. The one who knew that you would never get out. How you doing, Sister Donna? The one who put up a whole system to make sure that the remnant wouldn't be able to get there since they couldn't get to those who are already separated. But here you are sanctified. How you doing, Minister Samaya LeRae? Glad to see you on. How you doing, Callum? You have been redeemed, reconsidered. No longer the same that you used to be. Come on, somebody. You've been redeemed. You've been reconsidered. You have been made anew. You are no longer the same. You left, and when you left, you even left with the enemy's stuff. How many people know when you left with the enemy's cattle, with the enemy's sheep? All right, it's yours now. When you left their whole thing. Everything was being built off of your work and your hands. Does it sound familiar, by the way? Because we're coming out of some stuff now in modern kingdom, and persons are busy trying to tell you to stay inside of it. But when you leave, right, when we begin to leave this stuff, we have to recognize what's going on. So you've been sanctified. They're chasing the sanctified. They're not chasing you because of nothing. They're chasing you because you have been set apart, and you took time out to set apart what they meant to kill. Oh, I'm trying to help somebody, right? They meant to kill our firstborns, our best and our brightest. They want to string up anybody who could become the next Harriet Tubman or the next Sojourner Truth, right? They want to string up anybody that could become the next Dr. Francis Cress Wilson or the next Dr. Joy DeGroy, right? They would like to string up anybody who might become the next Sister Soldier, right? They're or the next Shahrazad Ali, or anybody that any community might think is something that can bring. They want to string up the next. But we have to sanctify it. Come on, somebody. We have to what? We have to sanctify them. All praises. We have to sanctify them. Set them apart. So that the blood is on the doorpost. But sanctification is still necessary. All praises to the Most High. The blood is on the doorpost, but sanctification is still necessary. And when we are sanctified, we must recognize that the enemy is coming looking for what he lost. How you doing, Sonny D? Thanks for being on. Thanks for being part of the community once again. He has to, the enemy is chasing what is sanctified. The enemy is chasing what is sanctified. The enemy is chasing what is sanctified. I'm just trying to help somebody. They're not chasing you just because. They're not chasing you because you're not anything of value. They're chasing you because you are sanctified. Give me a second. Sorry, excuse me. They're chasing what is sanctified. They're chasing what is set apart. You are no longer part of the system. Now watch. Now let's start going a little bit in depth. Let's get into a little bit of our story and even his story, if we will. Okay, let's deep dive. So, all praises to the Most High. So, and we're talking about what is sanctified. I need you to recognize that every time you decide to go away from the beast, every step you take away from the governance of this thing, every time you decide to do more in the private and not depend on the public as much, every time you get closer to saying that I can live with others who are like-minded and I do not have to live as part of a wicked, corrupt, disgusting, despicable system, every time you make a decision along those lines, every single time, the enemy is afraid, the enemy sees that everything that they built themselves upon is going to fall apart, because you dying the hype that somehow you being chosen by Yah is not true causes the whole wicked system to continue. The whole wicked system. I'm not just talking about the United States of America. I'm not just talking about Prussia or Russia or Croatia or Ukraine or Venezuela or Chile or Morocco, Spain, whomever, right? China, whatever. I'm talking about the whole system. The whole wicked system is based upon you, right? It runs on you being attacked and having to be brought back in to further something that cannot last. The whole thing. The whole system. Everything that we're talking about today, the whole system, the word world means system. The whole world, the whole system, if we're talking about the Greek connotation and context, right? The entirety of the system is based upon you believing that something that cannot last is eternal. Right? Something that cannot last, and starting to give your mindset into the temporary and letting something outside of the kingdom control you. And if you decide to let Yah have control rather than let wicked men have control, you have changed the world. And as the Bible even declares, you will help to flip the world, flip this system upside down. And your enemy, right, who has had us in Stockholm syndrome, now sees that you are not so romantic. You have not romanticized any longer. You refuse to romanticize your kidnapping. You refuse to romanticize things. May I give some examples to you? I guess you're gonna have to hear them anyways if you're gonna stay on. How you doing, Momo? How you doing, Kingston boy? Right? Look. Okay. For example, why do you think that they want to make sure that they erase history? And by the way, if you erase some history, you got to start touching all history. But why do you think they want to erase history? Who are the ones who they must erase so they can continue to say that you shouldn't pay attention to them? It's the same thing, by the way, that was done all the way back with their beloved King Henry VIII, to where King Henry VIII and his boy got together. I believe it's Sir Thomas something. I could be wrong in the name, Sir Thomas something. But they got together and erased something like 93% of history. At least what they recorded as history. We think this is a new thing. But the erasure of history is a consistent theme in the world. Because if you ever go back to the origin, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the origins. How you doing, Brother Ikhasa? How you doing till daybreak? And thank God for the love. That's how the lives continue. That's right. If you ever come into the knowledge of truth, this is why it even tells you, Paul tells us this in 2 Timothy chapter 3. He says before we need to turn away, the ones we need to turn away from, right, are important, because he said if we do not, we will be ever learning, but never coming into the knowledge of truth. Which means that you will always have things thrown at you. Information thrown at you, things to scroll through, all this stuff. You will all have all this information. You'll have all these clubs that you're dancing at. You'll know what the latest fashion trend is. You'll know what the latest slang is. You'll learn how to do everything that the world does. You'll have all this stuff being thrown at you. You'll ever be learning, but here's the problem. The learning never gives you knowledge. You know, you can learn a lot of whack stuff. Oh, come on, we going somewhere today. You can learn a lot of whack stuff. You can learn a lot of stuff that's who cares? Right? You learn a lot of stuff in school. Thanks for being part of the community, Kingston boy. You learn a lot of stuff in school right now. Your children are headed to school, some of you, right now. You're preparing them to go to school, depending on your time zone, depending on where you are in the world, right? And they're going to learn quite a few things that when they get older, they will never use again. Matter of fact, might I help you? I'm not saying that they should never learn mathematics or anything like that. We're not going there. That being said, right, just roll with me for a second. Allow me to introduce you to something called geometry, or reintroduce you to it. That little jug is liquid, but it's not juice. Come on, that's between drink and juice, right? Come on, right? Ever drinking, but never coming into the knowledge of juice. All praises. Right now, watch this. There's a little something called geometry. You think you learn geometry because it's just mathematics. And while it uses mathematics, if that is your belief system, well, the math ain't math. Because the reason why geometry is even introduced into your school system is because the Masons who made up the school system that you go to now, they said that it was important that you learn geometry because every Mason on their ring, every Mason, when they had that thing posted on the back of their car, that sticker, every Mason, when they have a few of the different cloths, depending on what kind of fraternity or whatever brotherhood they're part of, every Mason has a G in the middle of a protractor because geometry is something that they hold dear since the Masons, who now are supposed to just be a group of persons who have knowledge that you don't have, right? Actually just started off as Masons and they use geometry. So it's important to their culture what they put in place that you would learn it. So you'll ever learn geometry for generations, right? Never even knowing the reason why somebody said you must learn it. Now, I'm just trying to give you an example, right? That there are a lot of things that we're learning. Persons are telling us that this is this and this is that and blah, blah. But you'll be ever learning, but never able to come into what? The knowledge of truth. British Bar Association, come on. Matter of fact, you'll ever be learning about how to make sure, I mean, it's not exactly the same, but we can go someplace like this. You'll ever be learning about London, but never come into the knowledge that London is not even part of England. Not on paper. You'll ever be learning, but you'll never, ever learn that the UK, right, owns your birth certificates in the same way that the United States federal corporation is trying to take ownership over your birth certificates. You need to know how to use it correctly. Right? You'll ever be learning, but never come into the knowledge. And somebody says, "Oh, see, this is when I check out." But it's interesting. I'm gonna tell you something that now persons agree upon. That about 10 to 15 years ago, if I had spoke this, you guys would have thought, right? Many of you, and probably still some of you think, but many persons would believe that this is. They used to even still 10, 15 years ago. Oh, that's that crazy stuff. You know, that's that conspiracy theory. Things that jargon and all that. But watch this. Watch this, if I may. Something that now, if I say it and others say it, everybody's on board with it. But see, you were ever learning but never coming to the knowledge. And even when you're learning it now, you need to do something with this. Not just be somebody that has faith in something, but have some works, change something, begin to flow into something, allow your money, real money, right? Because money's not even real the way that you think it is, but real things to be current and flow properly instead of having so many savings and yet you still can't save and afford enough to be able to get anything because you don't know. Even the Bible says, King Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, that one who is not making sure that money spends is basically cursing themselves. It's basically making sure that you're not going to be able to go any further. Did you know that? Can I just see scripture? When I say this stuff, persons don't know that I'll be talking about scripture. Like I talked about that you need to learn about equity. That's Proverbs chapter 1. Young men need to know about equity. But we don't even know what's equitable. That's in the word. See? You're supposed to be sanctified. This part of sanctification, setting apart, teaching ourselves how to make sure that we can stand separate from the world so as the world falls, we have each other to fall back on and not worried about persons who never cared about us at all. If I may, though, if I may, right? Once again, we some of us just hearing this for the first time. Give me a second because I can't remember the exact verse off the top of my head. There we go. There we go. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 11. Here's a scripture that many of you never read before. We're going to do Ecclesiastes chapter 11. All praises to the Most High. I knew it was in there. I knew it was in there. Come on, teach us, King Solomon. Teach us. We got an eternal word for you, right? Teach us. And hello, Brother Mace. How you doing? I'll see if we can go there in a second. We will see. Right? How you doing, Marlon? That's right. We need to set up and set ourselves apart. Come on. Ecclesiastes chapter 11. Yeah, I could spend all day in this. Let me just go to where it says, "My greatness." I was studying something else the other day, and this thing really like hit my brain. Okay, you know what? That's Okay. All right. We'll read a little bit of this. We could be here all day. For real. I'm gonna just read. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 11. Let's start with this. We'll see where we go from here. Right? But let's start with this. Verse 3. The same King Solomon that said, "Hey, make sure that these young men know about equity." Is the same one talking later. It's interesting. We have wisdom, we have Christ talking about money, we have finance stuff, and we try to do everything like the world, but we won't do it the way the kingdom says. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 11. We'll focus on verse 3 just for now. We'll see if Holy Spirit brings us back to this, because we could really be in this all day, but this is not the focus for today. All right. It says, if the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be. Now watch this, verse 4. He that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. Oh, there's a lot in this. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. As thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child, even so thou knowest not the works of Elohim, who maketh all. In the rising sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand. For thou knowest not whether shall prosper either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike, in which is tabah, which is good. In other words, we hold on to stuff and we don't do things, and we're so busy looking, well, is it going to rain today? Is this going to happen? Is that happen? We do this, right? And we don't move. Well, in the same manner, right, with our finances, hey, y'all says move. Well, we know we need to do this and this and that. Remember, even with the manna, we got what we needed from day to day. We promised all our things will be taken care of in the wilderness, right? Whether it was water, whether it was manna, whether it was quail, we were going to be taken care of regardless. Clothing, all that, we were taken care of regardless. Tabernacles to be inside of, we were taken care of regardless. Pillar of fire pillar of fire, I'm getting mixed up, sorry. Pillar of fire by day to lead us in the evening. Pillar of cloud by day, by day in front of us to lead us in the rising. We didn't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow would take care of the things of itself. Christ even talks about that in the Sermon on the Mount, right? After he says, seek ye first the kingdom of Elohim and all his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto thee. We already have, come on, an expected end. If I have an expected end, then I start living today as if what is expected has already happened. That's how eternity works. Come on, somebody. That is how eternity works. Oh my greatness. That's how what? That's how eternity works. And so the eternal one has given us eternal ways to sow, so that we, right, and tells us basically that things move. They are current. Look, if the tree falls, it's going to fall. If it falls, what happens? It falls. And do you not think that another tree will not grow in its place? If it rains or if it doesn't, you can still go outside. You'll just get wet. Does that stop you from walking? Of course not. If Yah has promised that if you sow into the kingdom, if Yah has promised if you make sure that you build homes to live in them, if Yah has promised that you will have sons and daughters that will come into the knowledge of Yah and marry into each other, not as far as disgustingly, but talking about as far as within the kingdom, persons who are like-minded and persons who are going to believe in the same thing. Why are we not doing what he said? If Yah said that he will barak you if you make sure that you set some things aside, sanctify them, then why would you not? His word does not return void. Come on. And how you doing, Sister Danielle? All praise to the Most High for having you on. I was just thinking about you and Brother Joseph the other day, or Brother Joseph the other day. Got to reach out to you. See, we're taught things, but we don't do what it says. See, the enemy, going back now to Exodus chapter 13. Exodus 12, 13, and 14. But in Exodus 13, those who are sanctified in Exodus 14 are chased after because you're coming out of the world. May I give you another example, since we were talking about the United Kingdom? In the United Kingdom, it used to be something that y'all would have thought was crazy for me to say. A lot of you, not all, but a lot of you would have thought it was crazy for me to say just 10, 15 years ago. Because I know, because if you look on social media, they were saying that we were crazy to say this. Matter of fact, I was one of the persons on social media that were saying, we're crazy to say this, and coming in my comments and coming for me and all this stuff. How you doing, Sister Kirsten? Right, so I recall, I was there. I was at ground zero, right, when they labeled this as crazy, but not, persons have been saying this and knowing this since it happened. Do not forget the Rothschild family. See, now everybody we're talking about, one of the Rothschilds, I think the main Rothschild, I forget his name, to be honest, I forget his first name, right? That being said, he just passed away recently. Now everybody and their mama going to put on social media something that we've been talking about for the longest of times, which is this. How did the Rothschilds get even more power than they already had. They were starting to get power. They were starting to take loans. But what is the thing that kicks off everything? Which is the same thing they're still doing. This is why you got to sanctify yourself and stop thinking like the world. We're about to show you something historically, right? So for those of you who think I'm just talking scripture and he just making stuff up, and here he is, he looks a certain way, so blah blah. Well, money, of course, right? But now watch this. When did they start doing? See, watch this. The Rothschilds discovered something that's very powerful. I mean, you can go back to child slavery, and slavery still exists today, right? For real, right? But that being said, you know, any of these people talking about going to what's that place everybody goes and has the parties, and they tell you that everything's great over there, and Andrew Tate was just saying that it's the most Muslim place in the world or something, and they have persons that go over there and have all types of weird sexual perversions done unto them, you know, by these princes or whatever, what Dubai, right? Yeah, you know, besides the fact that we know that there's children that are being sold, you know, and you know there's persons that are in plantations, you know, called prisons that are being sold, and we know that there's still persons that are digging up, you know, things out of mines and stuff, you know, being sold, blood diamonds and stuff. Yeah, you know, there's still slavery going on. But that being said, right, the Rothschilds discovered that when they control the beast, he who has control of the beast, right? Which really is the Satan anyways. But when they follow the Satan's playbook and they control the beast, when they control the government, it's all over. What do I mean? World War II happens. Not even World War II. Sorry, we're not even at World War II yet. Excuse me. Let me rewind some more. Napoleon. Napoleon. So we're talking late 1700s, early 1800s. Napoleon Bonaparte, right? He loses the war. However, the Rothschilds take advantage of something. Because they are rich and because they are powerful. See, back then there was no social media, right? Amen. You control the money, you control the systems, and you control the world. But capitalism is serious. Now we're gonna show you some stuff, right? But they realized, right, a long time ago that hey, we need to control we need to not just give loans to individuals. We need to give loans to the governments. Because if we can give loans to kingdoms, then the kingdoms depend on us, right? That's how you got your first big loans that were happening, where kings and queens were trying to go to different places, and when they would try to travel, you might try to jack them for what they had. So, well, and it's really heavy, and there's a lot to deal with and stuff, but they want to go places, they want to spend a bunch of money, and they want to still live lavishly wherever they go. So what do? You make sure that you sign, you know, like a promissory note, right? You know, a loan, if you will. And you say, when you guys get from here to there, I've already set it up. I put my children out there. I put my family in a whole bunch of different places. So if you go from England to France, if you go from England to Spain, if you go from Spain to Portugal, whatever, everywhere you go, there'll be a Rothschild there that will have some money so that you can go ahead and just take this paper that you have. And as long as you pay us interest, we'll let you go ahead and use some stuff over here so you'll still have all your money. Then it goes from that to these persons start going into debt. So then, well, what do you do? But now, hey, well, I need collateral. What's the collateral? The collateral is the stuff that belongs to the nation. Because you're the king or the queen over the nation. So if you are the one who's over the nation, whatever belongs to you belongs to us if you can't pay. So when you can't pay back, or when you overspent, or if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, or you didn't get your paperwork together, well now, hey, well, the nation belongs to you. Matter of fact, the castle is mine. You can live in it, just know that if you don't do what I say, it's mine. Okay, fine, you done messed up, I need more collateral, okay? Well, how about your military belongs to you? You can do whatever if you can do whatever you want, but if you don't, hey, I need some of that military to do what I need. So they start being able to bully you. Eventually, hey, all your people belong to me. All of your lands are forfeit. All of this. See, and so now they begin to be smart. But even with that, they don't have as much control yet as we still might surmise. Until you get to a place where Napoleon goes to war. And he lost. We're talking about the UK. He lost. However, the Rothschild family, because once again, no social media back then, right? We don't have no telegrams or anything like that, right? No Morse code going back and forth. All you got is horses, messengers, somebody trying to run fast as horse as you can, trying to run, trying to sleep as little as possible, right? And so they're able to intercept a message and get it first about a day before, more than likely, before anybody else can, that Napoleon has lost. However, they start a rumor. They start a lie. They do something anti-Christ. They lie. They come up with something. They have you involved in a lie. And all the persons that have money follow suit. This is what happens. They find word that Napoleon has lost. But they say, you know what? Let's say he won. Because everybody wants him to lose. If he wins, it's game over. Because everybody has come together as all these nations to fight him. If he wins, it's game over. So they say he won. And they start to sell. See, be careful who you pay attention to, who's selling stock and stuff, right? When you get into selling stock, they start to sell all their stock. And they start to say, hey, Napoleon lost, we're getting rid of everything. And everybody starts paying attention. Wait a minute, why are Rothschild selling all their stock? Well, Napoleon lost. Okay, cool. And so we're going to get rid of it too, because we got to keep whatever money we have left. Right? He's about to change the game up. We might have to leave. We might have to roll out. So all the rich elite start selling everything that they have, basically. And then the Rothschilds come behind and they basically buy up all of the United Kingdom. And how you doing, Gabrielle? Thanks for being part of the community. Right? They buy up everything for pennies on the dollar. Because everything's cheap. Because, hey, if Napoleon's coming, all the stuff that we built, it don't really mean anything anyways. Right? Which is true. There's a really old movie that shows that. Okay, I have to see. Probably a few of them. I just don't know them. Right? Everybody sells everything. Then once they finish selling everything, Rothschilds buy up everything. Come to find out, Napoleon lost. Try to buy your stuff back, it's too late. And if you want to buy anything back, well, hey, we own everything. We control the market. We'll tell you how much it is if we decide to give you anything. But really, you'll never own. You'll just be on loan to us, once again, because we have power. And this is, and so this is the point. I'm not getting the exact quote. I can't recall every last word. But the Rothschilds came out. This is something you can research for yourself. And they told you this. After that, they know the game. They said, this is how the quote goes. It says, I'm sorry, what is it? They said, give me control. That's what it is. Give me control of the nation's, give me control of the nation's money, or give me control of the nation's wealth, one of those. Give me control of the nation's money, and I care not who creates their laws. And how you doing, Gavin with Christ? Thanks for being part of the community. That's right. That's why they fund both sides of the war. We're not even there yet, but come on, right? That's what we headed towards. They said, the Rothschild said, give me control of the nation's wealth, and I care not who makes their laws. They told you the game over 100 years ago, 200 years ago. They told you the game. Give me control of the nation's wealth, and I care not who makes the law. Why do you care so much who makes the law? Because you think that the persons making the laws have power, when the reality is they have to bow down to the ones who have true power. It is what it is. I know somebody don't want to hear it. I'm just telling you the truth. How you doing, Sister Toya? Welcome in, right? Thanks for being part of the community. You're sitting up there flabbergasted. What's going to happen? I need to vote for this one. You have a king, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. You have a culture. They try to take it away from you, but it's still there. You can research it. You can learn your culture. You can learn your language. All this. No. We got to make sure that we're doing what they say. Why? They're not even in control. Take it to the United States of America. Federal Reserve Bank. The Federal Reserve Bank belongs to the United States government. True fact or fiction? The Federal Reserve Bank belongs to the United States. Is that fact or fiction? That's false. It's fiction. The Federal Reserve Bank, and how you doing, Sister Sylvia? And how you doing, Chuck Wood? Thank you for the love. Thank you for the repost. Right? And how you doing, Cash? Please forgive me, everybody. Sister Shima, everybody coming in here. Right? Sister Angela. The Federal Reserve Bank does not belong to the United States. It belongs to the Rothschild family. Salah. Matter of fact, watch this. Going back to England. The Bank of England doesn't belong to England. Come on, somebody. The Federal Reserve, I'm sorry, the Bank of England is not an English bank. Come on, somebody. Matter of fact, right? It belongs to the. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at King, what's his name now? King Charles, is it? When he came into power, he gave a speech. And if you notice in the speech, he made it a point to talk about how the Bank of England should be under him and how certain rules should belong to him. Because if you missed it, if you are a Protestant, the Pope, the first Pope of Protestant, is King Henry VIII. He left Roman Catholicism because he wanted to keep having as many wives as he wanted, right? And the Pope wouldn't let him do it. And so he left and he became the first Pope of Protestantism. The second Pope of Protestantism is his son. Then his daughter, Bloody Mary, came into power and then ended up, trying to bring it back to Roman Catholicism, but then ended up having to give power to her sister, the last of those four, the last of the Tudors, and it ends up bringing them back into Protestantism. Whoever is the king of England, or the queen of England, for that matter, is the Pope of Protestantism. If you're a Protestant, you swear up and down that you're autonomous, but you're not autonomous. You belong to the Pope. Go back and read King Charles' speech when you get a chance. He talks about this, but also in that he talks about the Bank of England. Why? Because the Bank of England at one point was right, or at least the way we think about the Bank of England. He's saying, well, if I'm the Pope of Protestantism, and if I'm really the true king, they're always trying to get power back from Parliament. They're not going to get it, the true power that they should have. But he's like, if I'm truly the powerful one, I should have it. Why? He's saying the Bank of England really should be under my influence, and I should be able to spend the money, not the Rothschilds. Now come over to the United States of America. Why was JFK assassinated? Allegedly. How you doing, Brother Dennis? Why was JFK assassinated, allegedly, with the magic bullet? How you doing, Dat Man Superhero? Thanks for being part of the community. I'm not. See, once again, persons will think this is conspiracy theory. He told the Rothschild family, he told the Federal Reserve, that we're not supposed to let you tell us what to do with our money by law. He said, so what we're going to do is pay you our debt, because as long as you're in debt to somebody, one who's in debt is a slave. One who's enslaved is in debt. So he said, we're going to pay our debts and make sure we're not enslaved to you, and then we're going to leave you alone. Pow! Right after him, the person that he ran against, Richard Nixon, not right after, but a little bit after him, Richard Nixon comes back and says, hey, no problem, boss. Take the gold standard away completely. Go back before him. Now, I might get the wrong person. I believe it's Calvin Coolidge. If I'm saying the wrong president, please forgive me. It's somewhere around Calvin Coolidge, right? I believe it was him, who actually admitted that he did one of the worst things because he softened the gold standard. Other nations, by the way, before the United States, who was the last to get rid of it, other nations had already gotten rid of it because the Rothschild said so. Well, we can talk about it. Well, I see what you're talking about, the Israelis and stuff like that. I get you. Yeah, I see you because of the ish. How you doing, Ray? Thanks for being part of the community. Now, if we go back further, though, Abraham Lincoln gets shot. And everybody has all these theories. Might I just introduce another theory to you, since there's all these theories anyways? We know who shot him. We know when he was shot. I'm not even arguing that. There's some persons that are trying to argue that. I haven't read through the evidence that they present, so I don't know. That being said, though, I'm not here anti-John Wilkes Booth and all that stuff. That being said, President Lincoln said that he had two enemies he was fighting. He said he was fighting one enemy in front of him and one enemy behind him. If you go and research his fight, he's saying, I fought the South and I was fighting the banks who were supposed to back us up. How you doing, Brother Craig? I'm just trying to help you. The Rothschilds already told you, whoever controls the wealth of the nation, right? He said, give me control of the wealth of the nation, and I care not who makes the laws. Oh, and we're not finished yet. We're not done. We're not done. Let us not forget, they tried to take out what's his face, even though anybody who has indigenous or Native American blood in them can't stand this cat, but they tried to take out a man, well, not a man, But anyway, they tried to take out that Tower Destroyer, right? That Tennessee slave owner who went to Virginia and learned under Virginia slave owners like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and all them, right? Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson is the only president to ever sit to get the nation out of debt. And he's the only one to serve as a president as a nation that had debt. He's the only president to give the nation to somebody else debt free. And guess who he fought? Same thing. Right? He who makes the rules. He who has the wealth makes the rules. Once again, as they told you, as the Rothschilds already told you, and how you doing? I'm sorry, RFL Wellness Foundation. Thanks for being on with us. Thanks for being part of the community. Look, Lincoln assassinated. Right? They tried to assassinate Jackson twice, failed twice, and he told you that the greatest thing he ever did. This is what he said. He said the greatest thing that he can say he ever did in his life, he defeated the banks. They're not chasing you just for no reason. They're chasing you because you're sanctified. If you're sanctified, you got to be set apart. Kemet is losing control over their slaves. What are they going to do without their slaves? They're chasing after you. Praise Yah for the pillar of fire that's there between us and them. And how you doing, Q? Thanks for being part of the community. He said, so what was the thing everyone now see as the truth that we didn't see the truth before? Once again, as I said, many persons, if I might say this again, right? If you want, right? Hold me to the word, right? That I said. Many persons, and still some would think so, just 10 to 15 years ago, would have told you that everything I just told you, even though it's always been laid out, they would have told you that what I said is not true. Now, these are persons that could have read a book or do this, but what I'm saying is somebody can post that today and be like, oh yeah, I can just post it. Now, I'm saying that because we're starting to come into something that's always been there. But if we have been sanctified and learning things and building something separate from a wicked system that's trying to deny what's actually happened in history and do a cover-up all the time, well then guess what? We could go ahead and be leaps and bounds ahead. That's what I say, right? That's what I'm trying to get across. Is they're not chasing you because you never had anything to give. Even the slave has, if the slave has sweat equity, blood equity, they're doing way more than the master. Even if the master gets credit for the cotton gin, it doesn't mean that the master even made the person who made the cotton gin so that they didn't have to keep stabbing their hands with cotton as much. Right? The ingenuity and the creativity came from somebody who was saying, hey, I've been given a vision that helps me to at least escape a smidgen of bondage. How you doing, Bridget? Thanks for being part of the community, Cash. How you doing, Jimmy Lopez? Thanks for being part of the community. Right? I'm saying this because there's a lot of stuff that we're still living by that's not true. That's not so. And thank you for the likes and shares, subscriptions, hit the notification tab, all that great stuff, including those of you who give donations in the way of money, etc. And the things that you guys do to help us behind the scenes of what we do worldwide. We appreciate you. For us, it's not just virtual, this is reality, and we thank you for being on with us. So let us continue, right? So now, when you get to World War II, if I might just put this out here, by the time we get to World War II, and everybody's saying, oh yeah, it's the Axis power, that's the evil one. It's the Allied power, so that's supposed to be the righteous one. The reality is that when you get over to World War II, look at those train tracks that led to concentration camps. There's pictures of them. And when you look at the pictures, you'll discover that the Allied powers have their corporation names on the train tracks that lead to the concentration camps. Now, wait a minute. This is not after, right? They didn't build railroads and then try to fight the Nazis. They have their corporation names on the railroad tracks, which means that your Allied powers that want you to think that they fought for freedom were just basically being played or under under the corporations, under the ones who control your wealth, under the ones that tell you that you have to work a 9 to 5, and then they shot video and lied to you and told you they were trying to free you. How are you trying to free, but you were the ones who were making money off of the enslavement and the melting? And by the way, I'm not trying to do this to deny the truth. I'm just trying to give you more truth, right? This is why the number keeps expanding. At one point it was 2 million, then it was 6 million, now it's 10 million, and then persons are trying to say it could have been 20 million. We forget that it wasn't just only, and I'm not saying that they were not just only Jewish persons. A lot of them. Matter of fact, I wouldn't mind somebody saying the majority, quite possibly. I don't know, because nobody really knows. That being said, it wasn't just Jewish persons. We forget there were black concentration camps. We forget that there were Christian concentration camps. We forget that there were prisoner of war concentration camps. They had them separated in different places, right? So this number gets bigger because we keep finding out way more persons that were there. We had traitors that were put in concentration camps, perceived traitors to the Nazi way, or really they didn't even call themselves Nazi. That's a new, the new thing we put on all of them. Nazi actually means something slightly different, but you know who we're talking about when we say that. And how you doing, General Mosquito? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Lilac? And thanks for being part of the community. Is it butter cake? Gooey butter cake. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for being on. So we have all this stuff going on. We're not even aware of what's going on. They were playing both sides. By the way, this is just some simple stuff. See, they're not chasing you once again. They're chasing you because you're coming out of it. You're starting to realize, wait a minute, why would I participate? Why would I keep trying to say that I'm going to vote for somebody to be put in the middle of evil, and somehow one righteous kernel in the middle of evil is going to cause everything to shift? We already have a righteous place that we should make sure that there's no kernel of evil put inside of it. Right? Come on now. We got to admit, yeah, the same persons. By the way, this is on wax. We know the CIA and NOI work together to off Malcolm. I'll say allegedly, just so we don't get into trouble. It's on wax. We know the CIA was trying to bring Malcolm in to try and get rid of NOI, but also trying to get more information. But Malcolm, even though he was done with NOI, still wouldn't give him the information because he ain't no rat. They forgot Malcolm used to run the streets. They forgot Malcolm was in prison for a minute. They forgot Malcolm, had honor amongst thieves back when there was a such thing. These are the persons who are trying to tell you to stay connected and keep voting and keep doing this, but they're not chasing. When we talk about Passover, once we come out, we got to sanctify ourselves. We got to sanctify ourselves, wrap ourselves in truth. Remember, when it talks about the belt of truth, as far as talking about the full armor, that's because you would have worn a tunic, and then over that tunic you would have had on chainmail, right? And you take a belt and tie it around, right, to make sure that you're not tripping and falling all over the tunic, right? Now the tunic for some came down far. A lot of persons it might have stopped, around the thigh area or something like that, depending on what branch or what nation you're fighting for, whatever. But ultimately, you had to tie the thing tight to ensure, right, that you weren't going to go ahead, and have a bad day when something got snagged or this and that or whatever, right? So then you can put the breastplate of righteousness over that. But the belt of truth ties that together. The breastplate of truth tied around what? The loins, even your gut instincts, right? These things that you talk about, I felt it in my gut, right? Thinking through your whole body. The truth has got to be wrapped around. And these persons are not chasing us because because they want to somehow now start telling you the truth. These persons are chasing you because you come out of a lie. Will you continue out of the lie, or are you going to go back in? If you're coming out of the lie, and that's what you're supposed to. You're supposed to come out of wickedness, come out of bondage, come out of come out of evil, come out of wickedness. Why do you keep trying to get back in there? And thank you for the verse that was put there earlier. There was somebody else I missed. If you want to put that verse up again, I know it was in Proverbs as well. Please forgive me. I forget who it was that put it up. I saw the second one. I got the second one in my head. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Matter of fact, I love this verse. Sister Shirley, I think it was that said that one. Now somebody else had another one. Before then, if you can put it up, please forgive me for not remembering off the top of the dome. And how you doing, Pink Poodles? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, 704 Kiki? Thanks for being part of the community. Jordan Trash, thanks for being part of the community. Thank you, a believer in Yahuwah. Thanks for being on. Thank y'all for the shares, likes, subscriptions, notification tab, all that great stuff. All right, let's keep on moving. Let's keep on pushing. Watch this. See, I like this verse because a lot of persons don't get this. Once again, we're supposed to be training these boys in equity according to Proverbs 1. And really, we should train everybody in equity. But Solomon is specifically talking about from a male perspective, but he was taught by his mother and father, and he's actually speaking to men. This is why even when it says, he who finds a wife finds a top things and obtains favor from Adam, the verse right before it says, death and life is in the power of the tongue, and those that love it will eat the fruit thereof. So this is saying that you as a husband, and then if you go back even further into that, that's Proverbs 18. If you go back even further past that, that's Proverbs 18, 21 and 22. If you go a few verses before that, it's talking about us as kingdom men, how we're supposed to treat ourselves, build things, and now it starts even going into marriage, right? So that's a marital scripture. The person don't even put that together. That he who finds a wife finds somebody who can speak life when necessary, speak death necessary. And when you found somebody who does that and loves you enough to do that righteously for you, then you have found a thing that helps you to obtain favor from Adam or from the Lord. Right? Well, if we go over to Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7, great scripture, the rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. But here's the next thing. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, right behind it, is where you get this verse that we don't even think about having to do with persons trying to deal with your finances. But watch this. Proverbs 22, verse 6 is where you get this verse that says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. But the very next verse after, it says what? The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Matter of fact, if we go one more verse, verse 8, it says, he that soweth iniquity shall reap vanity, and the rod of his anger shall fail. Put these verses together, and what do we have? If we train a child righteously, when they get old, they'll do what they're supposed to do. Even if they leave it for a bit, they're going to come back to it. If they come back to it, they're coming back to it, right? And we should make sure, therefore, that they come back to a mindset of riches or wealth rather than some of the temporary things that will get you messed up. Because if not, then you will help them to become poor. And if they have a poor mindset, they will always be ruled over by those with a rich mindset. Right? So make sure you teach them to be the lender and never the borrower, because the borrower is always a servant to the lender. The next verse then comes behind that and sews it up for us real quick. We're saying if we sow iniquity, now with the context even, is still we're coming out and talking about wealth. And wealth is not just rich, by the way. Wealth is talking about money, it's talking about land, it's talking about health, it's talking about mindset, it's talking about psychology, it's talking about culture, it's talking about origins, right? If you sow iniquity, then you shall reap. If you sow iniquity into your child, well, then when your child grows and it's time for them to produce fruit, they will have iniquitous fruit. They will become seedless. You know, when man can't produce seed, what do we call that? And how you doing, Sharon? Sharon Lifestyle. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Thanks for being part of the community. No graven image. Okay. So what I'm help me out. Yeah. We call them sterile. We also call them right. Yeah. They're not fertile, non-fertile, infertile. We've been raising sterile fruit, trying to figure out why our children aren't sowing seeds of righteousness, but they're sterile because you sowed iniquity. See, we should be at iniquity with the Most High. I'm sorry, excuse me. The world is at iniquity with the Most High. We should be at iniquity with the children of the devil. That's Genesis chapter 3, about to shut that on. That's right, they're barren. We are raising a barren generation. Less and less seed, less and less word, less and less truth is coming each and every generation. My brother is only 12 and a half, really, well, I guess almost 13 years younger than me. And when he went to high school and I went to high school, the stories he told me, I was clutching my pearls. What? They're doing what? You guys are doing what in the school? You guys are doing what in the hallways? You're doing what in the bathrooms? Yeah. And that's my brother. 13-year separation just about. And the things that he told me he sees, I'm like, yo, I would have never thought. Right? Look, no offense, no shade. I'm not even on this stuff, even though we know where we stand as far as the kingdom, and as far as sexuality, and as far as what a husband is, a wife is, what a man of Yah is, what a woman of Yah is. We don't have no problem with that here. But I'm just even trying to show you something. I'm not even trying to speak down on y'all or down on anybody who's LGBTQ plus or whatever right now. I'm just trying to give you context. You could have not told me just as an 80s/90s baby. I guess I'm an 80s baby mostly because I was in the 80s until I was 8. Does that make me an 80s baby? I don't know. Maybe I'm in between, whatever. But you could not tell me in the 80s and still not even in the 90s and even in the early 2000s that Young Thug would be wearing a dress on the album cover. Somebody who's raised a little bit in the 90s and raised in the 2000s, though, I mean, that's just what it is. You couldn't have told me. Matter of fact, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson talks about that, where Neely Fuller Jr. was telling persons that was going to happen in the 60s and 70s. And persons were looking at him like, nah, man, you making up stuff. You couldn't have told me that, that was a big deal when, what's the character's name? Um, Nipsey Hussle is named after, he stole his name from who? Who was the person that was before him that had a similar name? They used to cross dress back in the day. A lot of y'all don't even know that's where he got his name from. Nipsey Russell. And then even before Nipsey Russell, there was somebody else too, right? Played a character. Y'all forgive me, it's not my generation, but I know of it. Geraldine. I got the wrong name. I had to look at it, right? Back in the day, there was somebody who used to do that and used to dress up and do all that stuff or whatever. And back then, that was a big deal because persons were like, yo, what are you doing? Right, but then persons started doing that ritual. Thank you. It was Flip Wilson. We did, Flip Wilson was a huge deal because persons would have said, yo, that's crazy. That's wild. We don't do that as a people. As a people, Flip Wilson. Thank you. Yeah, Flip. As a people, that was something we knew there were persons who were whatever, right? And we still raised them. We still made sure we looked at them a little whatever, but at the same time, and I know somebody doesn't like that. I'm just telling you the truth about the time. Like we come from situations for real. We know, like, look, if you come from a family like I come from a family, you got an uncle that's whatever, right? You got auntie, uncle always come with uncle so and so. Auntie always come with aunt so and so. You don't know what that means until you get to a certain age. But it was never something that was so much in the culture that now we act like it's the same as being as part of the diaspora. We don't make any distinction between the two. Now I know there's progressives that listen to me that would say, well, that's progressive. But I would say to you that when we got into a place where we don't even know what's a male or a female. And then we're sitting up there, the same group that will tell us, right? Is you got to keep the same energy on this. Now I know somebody's gonna like what I'm about to say. You keep the same energy because you can't be the same group that's telling us that all women are women, and then sit up there and say that you protect women. If you get my drift, I'm gonna say it again in code. But if you get my drift, you see what I'm saying? Don't tell me that all women are women, yet women are telling you that they don't feel protected. And you're saying, well, we're on the side that protects women. But if all women are women, then how come you're saying that all women have periods and then trying to say that a woman can be whatever you feel like a woman is? Matter of fact, if you have paid attention to Black Lives Matter, it kind of dwindled a lot. But if you pay attention to Black Lives Matter, they teach in schools. If you didn't know that, they teach in schools. And as they teach in schools, they have something every first, and I don't know when exactly, somewhere around the spring, many of them do, but they have different ones for different age ranges going all the way from preschool all the way up through college. And for a week or 2 weeks, they'll teach on Black Lives Matter, and it's called the Black Lives Matter Pyramid. There's 13 things on the pyramid. And if you'll notice, only 4 of them mention black folk. But even when it mentions the black folk, it'll say stuff like this. It'll say, one of the parts of the pyramid will say, black women. And then they'll say, we know that black women should be protected. However, all women should be protected. And then they go into what all women has been redefined. They'll say, black family, right? But then all of a sudden they'll go into this context and do all these things or whatever, right? And they'll say, there's many types of family. Hold on, we talking about, which family are you talking about? What is family? What's the definition? What are we doing over here? How you doing, Sister Casey? That's right, they were suffered to believe the lies. They preach it from the pulpit. They make apologies on behalf of everybody who believes in the Bible, as if the Bible even wants them to apologize. And for those who don't get what I mean by that, Because some of you might not get. I'm talking about the actual word, right? The actual word. Apology, to apologize, means to give an explanation or a defense or even to debate. There's certain things in the word that are not for debate. Even when you talk about genre, that's where it comes from. Genre, gender, it's the same word basically, right? Just a different way of saying it. Different culture, different places where the dialect is that moved a couple of characters around, but it's the same word. And if you have a genre of music, if I'm playing piano in country music, and I'm playing piano in classical. If I'm playing piano over 1/1 chord, if I'm playing piano, right, in Afro Cubano, if I'm playing in Afro beats, and I'm talking about the actual Afro beats, not just house music that we call Afro beats today. We're talking about the actual like Afro beats that was written back in the day that was supposed to be jazz fusion and help to make sure that we were promoting, we were promoting black rights, so to speak, around the world. Um, no matter what genre or gender, same word, of music I play, I'm still playing the piano. A piano is defined as a piano, right? If I play a marimba, it might be similar to a piano, but one would not ever confuse a marimba for a piano. If I'm playing an organ, I'm playing an organ. One would not confuse a Hammond B3 for a string bass. If I'm playing an upright bass or a string bass, one would not confuse it for an electric bass. If I'm playing a fretless bass, see, this is when you get into knowledge that I'm not. One would not confuse it for regular bass. If I'm playing a 7-string bass, and you know how to play 7-string bass, you play it slightly differently than what you would play a 4-string bass. You have to have a different style. Put your fingers different places. If I'm playing, right, if I'm playing electric bass, I can do a little bit of this. If I'm playing upright bass, I have to develop something called a claw and play it like this or like this, depending on the style I'm looking for. Or I have to learn how to bow. If I'm playing the violin, I have to learn how to have my head slightly to one side and make sure that I know that if I'm on the outer strings, I should come up. But if I start going inner, my elbow needs to lift up. Whatever I'm playing, it's a different instrument. It requires a different thing, right? So if one is a male and one is a female in different genders or genres, then you might have a genre or a gender that you do for your culture. But in our culture, this is what a male and female are, period. If I go to your culture, I understand that if I go to your culture, you guys allow for this is it. But in my culture, this is what my children will be taught. See, once again, when you begin to separate, when you begin to sanctify these babies that are supposed to be covered by the blood, that is supposed to allow the death angel to pass over so they don't just die off and their culture doesn't die off and they can be resurrected and be redeemed, well then guess what? I got to make sure that when Kemet comes chasing me, trying to get me to go back into their mentality and trying to get me to come back and threatening me, thinking they got me on the ropes, forgetting that or not even knowing that y'all already have it set up to where the same staff that was able to eat the snakes is the same staff that was used when he saw the Most High on holy ground, right? And saw a bush that was burned, was never consumed. That same staff can be used to walk across the Sea of Reeds on a land that is dry. It belongs to the one who had the same relationship with the one who can take dry bones and turn them back into the Hadasha the way it's supposed to be. And how you doing, 404 Mac? Thanks for the repost. How you doing, Mr. Latterman? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Alize Taran? Thanks. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Thanks for being part of the community. Thank y'all for the love. Appreciate you on all different platforms. If I miss you, charge it to my head, not to my heart. Much love to you. How you doing, Joel? By the way, thank you for being on. Appreciate you. How you doing, Sister Beverly? Missed you. I don't know if I said shalom, Auntie Mariam. Please forgive me if I didn't. And I think I said shalom, holy Noel. Please forgive me if I didn't. Purple Butterfly. Thanks for being part of the community. There's a lot of us over a lot of different platforms. So if I miss something, I promise you, I'm not trying to miss you. I'm not trying to just skip over what you might say. I'm trying my best to catch it, but we give all praise and honor to the Most High for all of you coming in. Prayerfully, this is showing you something. See, we've been in this thing talking about Passover teachings for a while, and yes, we're in Passover because all these things happen with Passover. And as I said earlier, when we talk about Passover, we talk about it in its context, in its righteousness, the way the nation's supposed to do it, etc., and what it represented from the beginning, including even the sacrifice, including what's supposed to happen, including us getting ready to leave bondage. It starts to be something that persons will come against because many persons are still in the world, and when you're in the world, this is revolutionary. This causes somebody that they got to get up and do something. This causes that if you say you have faith in something, we got to start evaluating your works. Because look, works by works alone, thou art not saved, but your faith and your works should go together. If you have faith in something but never work in it, then it's dead anyways. If you have faith in something but never work it, then it's dead anyways. I'm trying to help somebody. See, this is the part. This is the part that puzzles persons because once again, you've been lied to. You've had persons preach from many different pulpits, whether it be the pulpits in your church, whether it be the pulpits in a government meeting, whether it be the pulpits at a what they used to call it. I've been out of what they used to call. I've been out of the school system for so long. Uh, what is it when your children come and the parents are over at the PTA? Whether it's PTA, they preach, it's the same thing. No matter where you're hearing it, whether it's kings, whether it's chieftains, whether it's so-called believers, they're preaching the same thing. Now, shit, how you doing, Pepper Butterfly? For them say so already. They're preaching the same weird foolishness. You said, how do I feel about persons using excessive curse words? Well, it's not even about how I feel. I try to make sure that I do what I'm coming here to represent. So it's not even about my opinion. I don't like to opine. So I don't use profane language because anything that's profane, right? Now, some things that some persons might call things curse words that maybe they are or not. That's another argument. But I don't use profane things because profane things are things that actually cause curses to happen. And definitely, if it's cuss words, curse words, etc., I don't speak curses. If I do speak curses, I speak curses from the perspective that in the name of Yahweh, in the name of Yahshua, in the name of Vakakudas, in the name of the Most High, right? I will curse those who curse us, right? For those who bless us will be blessed, and those that curse us will be cursed. And even Isaiah chapter 54, verse 17, I believe, is where it says, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against us shall be condemned." We're supposed to condemn it. This is the heritage, or even the inheritance. This is the heritage of Israel. So I have every right to curse wickedness, but I don't walk around in my regular speech cursing. But once again, I get it. There's persons that are still trying to come out of it, right? And I'm not going to pretend that I don't have a curse word come across me once in a while, or I don't watch something and I know there's going to be a curse word or something, and I'm not going to pretend. But that's when we have to make sure that we start separating and even doing more and trying our best to catch any of the stuff that's coming through. Right? And how you doing? User 1158201, etc. That's being part of the community. But it's time for us to come out of bondage. And once again, Pharaoh, right? The United States, President, ICE, Democrats, Republicans, Green Party, Libertarians, Marxists, Communists, right? Former slave owners, regular slave owners, chattel slave owners, right? Persons who are trading our women, persons who won't protect women, persons who won't protect men, persons who won't protect our children. They're chasing after what they lost because they lost you because you have been sanctified. Yah sanctified you when he separated Goshen from Kemet, and he told you to sanctify yourself. And he told you while you're sanctified, he gave you a warning. Pharaoh's heart is hardening. Be ready for him to come after you. Pharaoh could come into the knowledge of Yah, right? Biden could, Obama could, Trump could, Bush could, Reagan could, uh, uh, um, you know, uh, um, Carter could, etc. They could have come out. They could become righteous. They have a right to. They have a right to the tree of life if they so choose to do what's necessary. Problem is, though, or I'm sorry, they would have a right if they so choose to do what's necessary to give them that place. But they do not do what's there. So you must recognize that while you're so busy trying your best to be like, hey, I'm gonna try and change things, these persons are chasing after what they are losing. You are a winner, they are losers 100% of the time. They're chasing after those who are lost. Remember, Revelation chapter 12. The Satan comes looking for Israel. He cannot get to her. She is in the wilderness, and the clay swallows up the water. The people who come out of his mouth, they can't get to her. So he builds a government, a beast, through his people that comes out of the water, out of his people, to be able to go ahead and try to rule the same government with 7 heads, right? 7 heads, Kemet, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persians, Greece, Romans, and yes, I know some of you don't want to hear this, but even Christianity because what you call Christianity is pagan. What you call Christmas is Saturnalia, is winter solstice. What you call Sunday is the day you worship the sun. What you call Monday is the day you worship the moon. What you call Tuesday is the day you worship Tivs. What you call Wednesday or Wednesday is what the day you worship Odin. What you call Thursday is Thursday. What you call Friday is the day you worship Freedom. What you call Saturday, once again at the end of the week, like at the end of the year, you have Saturn, Saturnalia, Saturn. That's what you're doing. It is infused. It is interwoven to the point to where you cannot even recognize the difference between the two. It is so Laodicean, right? Revelation chapter 3. It is so Laodicean that the Most High has to spew it out of his mouth. He can't allow it to come into the body. How you doing, Sister Quotation? The Satan is not coming back to save anybody. The Satan is here on earth right now. Revelation chapter 12. Matter of fact, the Satan has not been to hell in time, in eternity. Yeah, you can say that. But in time, the Satan has not even been to hell. You said it's what paganism? Christmas? Winter solstice? Worshiping Thor? Yeah. Yeah. Even pagans will say, yeah. Matter of fact, pagans, first time I started hearing pagans say this was, I went to school, and I went to the school, where, we were a heavy minority or whatever, and I learned from witches that were in the school. They would be like, when you guys celebrate Christmas, I didn't grow up celebrating it anyways, but they'd be like, when you guys celebrate Christmas, y'all are just biting. Y'all just taking what we do. And I'd be like, what? But yeah, word. The Christmas tree, you told not to do it in Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1 through 5. Do not be afraid of the changing of the seasons, winter solstice. Do not hire a workman, right, to pay him for the works of his hands and the axe and cutting down the tree. Don't have him cut down the tree. Don't have him drag him to your house. Do not post it up, and do not paint it silver and gold. Ishtar, Easter. We're going to talk about this more on Wednesday. But Easter, what is Easter? Easter is not Passover. What is communion? Communion is not Passover. It's a little piece of it. And it's done whenever people feel like it, but you're giving commandments on how to do that. Even Paul says that he left specific commandments. Don't just do anything. And if you eat or drink wrong, you're eating or drinking damnation unto yourself. Paul says that in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 23. He says, for this cause, many of you are weak, many of you are sickly, and many of you are actually walking around asleep. You're sleepwalking, or you're just asleep in the bed. You're not able to be spiritually woke. How you doing? Good time, and thanks for being part of the community. He says, so is the wilderness metaphorical and not a true wilderness everyone will be protected in? Well, back then, of course, the wilderness is real. We should be in the wilderness. So we could look at it, the word metaphorical, I guess, it doesn't quite match because there's reality too, but you could say in a sense, yes. Well, not even in a sense. Let's just say it's metaphorical. I be tripping over words and parts of words sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with what you said. All right, my bad. That being said, so but even if we're talking about metaphorically speaking, if we want to use that terminology, in the metaphor, you must comprehend what the word wild or wilderness means. When we leave Kemet and we go into the wilderness, when we leave bondage and we go into the wilderness, the word wild or even sauvage en français, right, or sauvage en anglais it means wild as well. Wild or savage basically means you do not fit into society. We as a peculiar people do not fit in, period. We should not. So when we come back together, we will be considered to be wild or savage because we have a belief system that doesn't even fit in. And by the way, this is not just only talking about Eurocentric. It's talking about even some of what persons say is Afrocentric. Right? If I might just go ahead and throw that in there real quick and make sure that we comprehend that. But this is not just talking about even what's Eurocentric. Because we have this weird thing where we do colorism as well. Because we come out of racism and we come out of chattel slavery. And so just like in Liberia, you send us somewhere, you send us to Monroeville, you send us wherever. And we have this mindset to where we're still against each other. And that persons have to enslave each other. We'll do the same thing that those that we have the Stockholm Syndrome appreciative mindset of, we'll do the same thing. That being said, the wilderness is a place that says that you don't belong, ultimately. So the wilderness doesn't mean everybody went with the blessing. The wilderness does not mean everybody that went there was never, there was never anything at all. It was a straight desert. There were deserts, right? But it doesn't mean there wasn't an oasis here. It doesn't mean they couldn't have been a forest. It does not mean that there were not animals at all, right? But it's some of the wilderness. Now, Yah took care of those things anyway. So even if we got to places where there was nothing, it didn't matter. If Yah took care of us, we were straight. But the wilderness is talking more so about you do not fit into society. So when we talk about even our wilderness experience now, and us getting ready to go into the land of Canaan, right? A new land of Canaan, a new Jerusalem, land flowing with milk and honey where heaven meets earth. Then the mindset that we're talking about is we're still having the same protection and can still trust in the Most High to take care of us, right? So the wilderness, those that are wild, like I've said it like this before. If you look at a lion, if you have a lion in the zoo, is that a wild animal? A lion in the zoo, is that a wild animal? Right? Of course. We would say that a lion is in fact a wild animal. Why can't I spell? I'm sorry. I can't spell for some reason. I'm sorry. Somebody help me out. I'm having a moment. Sometimes there's words that be messing with me. It is what it is. Somebody spell separate for me real quick, please. I have like 15 different things up now because I done spelled it so many different times. I don't even know what to autocorrect to. Can somebody help me, please? I'm like, oh, I'm sitting there, I've been looking at this the whole time. Like, I know this ain't right. That's it. I was putting SEPERATE. Then I was like, I think that's supposed to be an A. And I've just been sitting there staring at it, trying to post. And I'm like, I'm afraid to post it because I know that something's not right. I've been sitting there staring at it like, I'm trying to preach it. I'm like, what? Something not making sense. All praises to the Most High. Hallelujah. Yeah, that E and that A be tricky. I was just staring at it like, that's something not right. Okay, all right, all praise. But yeah, so the separation in the wilderness, that's really what it's going to. The separation in the wilderness, thank y'all. That's really what it's going to, right? It's us being separated. So the wilderness, we separate, and then we're going through a process of watching a whole generation go have to come on. You know, generations that still attach themselves so much to the slavery that we've been delivered from, that even though we are free, even though our enemies have drowned, even though we're still led by the same pillar of fire that was separating us from the enemy, when it's time for us to get the law, right, from a high place and to go higher, and when our leadership is actually doing what they're supposed to do, there's still persons who are so stuck in where we come from that even though we are supposed to look wild to them, they try to make sure we start fitting in again and say, hey, get the gold that the Most High gave to you, let's give it back to them and our minds back to them by saying, hey, let's build a golden calf. Because once again, whoever is over your wealth, as the Rothschild family said we talked about earlier, whoever's over the wealth, right? When you're over your own wealth, you care not. When you're over the wealth of a nation, you care not who makes your laws. Well, if you're a capitalist, how can you be with the Most High at the same time? Because he doesn't control your wealth. He doesn't control your decisions. See, it runs deep. If you never put any stock in finding your culture and your language, that's wealth. Somebody else controls you and says, hey, I'm telling you that this language is the only thing that matters. You say, okay, boss, I'm going to make it the way you said it. You don't separate. Whoever controls what's coming out your mouth now. This is why if you've been on here long enough, you probably understand I don't use certain words. For example, I do not use the word good. Why? Because the word good and God are the same word. If you don't know what God is a Germanic way of looking at any being that you want to worship, or any idol, any natural thing that you want to take out of its nature and worship, you make that a God. That's what the word means. So God in my culture, in my language, is actually talking about one of the children of Israel. Because I'm in the kingdom, right? And so in the kingdom, we worship Elohim because that's who he is. That's who the Most High is. God would have worshipped Elohim. So you'll never hear that in the language. It doesn't mean that I do not know what somebody else means when they say it, but if I'm going to make sure I have a culture and community and something and stay separate and not keep trying to give things back to them, so be it. But, right? How you doing, Tay92? How you doing, Brother James? How you doing? Why Nate and why not? Why not, bro? How you doing? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Jackie, Guard, y'all, everybody? Thank you for being on with us. We very much so appreciate your presence. Hopefully you're getting something out of it. Uh, quick time out. Can you guys over here hear and see me at all? Yes, no, maybe so? Because it says there's 0 persons over here. So did I lose y'all? Did I lose signal? And I just don't know. Did I lose you guys? Did I lose anybody? Did I lose you? Did I? Uh-oh. Can somebody do me a favor? Can somebody go over to YouTube real quick? Oh, no, no, you're here over there. Okay, all right. It says there's 0 persons on. Usually that means we got a bunch of persons, so they're messing with the numbers. All right, I just want to make sure. Okay, cool. All right, thank you. All right, you're here. All right, cool, cool, cool. I bet. I just saw, looked up. I was like, wait a minute. 0 persons. That's not working. Okay. All right. All praise to the Most High. But like I was saying with the line, today was my kakadash, salahia, right? Sorry about that, y'all. So if you see a lion in a zoo, is it a wild animal or is it a tamed animal? Yeah, it says 1. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's working. It's just whatever they do is what they do, right? But if I see a lion in the zoo, is it a wild animal or is it a tame animal? You said wildly tame? Which means basically it's not what it's supposed to be, even if we say wildly, right? Now some would say wild, right? And I would agree with you, but even from the other perspective that we might not think of, because see, an animal, see, we don't comprehend how this works. They'll say it's wild because animals don't belong in our culture, right? As far as like we shouldn't be walking around and have lions, and bears, and tigers around us, right? It doesn't make sense. That being said, at least outside of the garden, right? At some point we'll do that again, but we ain't there right now, right? That being said, if you go into their territory, by the same definition, you are the one that's wild when you go over there because that's not where you belong. If a lion, right, is over in the Serengeti, the lion is in their territory. That's not wild behavior. You call it wild because it's not how you roll. But where they live, that's not wild. Now, it's not tamed either, but that's not wild. You see what I'm saying? You're wild. We have this weird thing, right? Especially because of the persons we've been under for so long, where they go over to other places and they keep trying to discover where already human beings or other beings even live. How you doing, Casey? Yeah, thanks for being on with us. How you doing? It's the Root. Thanks for being part of the community. Right? You've been taught. This is part of the doctrine of discovery. You've been broken. Broken? Yeah, we could say they're broken. How you doing, Joe? And thanks for being part of Community B. Right? You need to recognize, like, when I go in, if I as a human being go where lions live, I am the one that's wild. Don't come into somebody else's place. But see, the doctrine of discovery, once again, when you start to separate, they're trying to chase you down and say, no, stop. Pay no attention to the person behind the curtain. Hey, please, don't listen to this person. He's wild. He's just conspiracy theorist. Don't listen to her. She's just giving all types of conjecture. No. Hear me, beloved. This is not opinion. This is fact. If I go into a place where bears live, right? The grizzly man, for some of you who know about him who met a grizzly demise, if you go where grizzly bears live, and a grizzly bear does what they do, right? That grizzly bear didn't go crazy. That grizzly bear went grizzly. Right? If you go and you see, I forget their names now, but you go and see them 2 dudes who was up there with all those tigers and lions and all this stuff and putting them on the show and all that stuff. Well, guess what? That tiger didn't go crazy. That tiger went tiger. You decided to do something wild, and then you got the result of something that doesn't belong where you are. Where here's the same thing. We keep deciding to allow things. How you doing, Brother Thomas? Right? How you doing, Mo Desire? How you doing? And thanks for being part of communities. I don't know, it's Be Mad, Trey Be Mad. I'm not sure if that's how you say it. Right? It's just protecting its territory or just doing what it does. Or hey, there's certain things, for example, I'm not supposed to be around all these people. And you can train me to go ahead and give up. You can even hurt me. You can stab me. You can do a lot of stuff. Matter of fact, you're not even raising me. I've never been around grass. I've never been outside like that. I've never had like more of the territory than just being in the cage all the time. The most I get is when I go ahead and I bow down to you, But when I bow down to you, I never feel like myself. Hey, if I wild out, if I riot, well, then that's the language of the oppressed. Mm. Mm. Get out of our cup of death for that. How you doing, Derek? Thanks for being on with us. Right? That's the language of the oppressed. You oppress somebody long enough, you put them in chains long enough, you tell them they're not human long enough, and then finally something in them strikes, and you put it in the corner long enough, and they'll go ahead and do what oppressed people do. Nat Turner was preaching your sermons, and he was content to preach your sermons and have the overseer come behind him and tell him what he was doing was wrong. But then he finally came into the knowledge of the Bible and said, wait a minute, put me in a corner long enough. Oh yeah, that's Nat Turner's story. You know, when everybody talks about this, see, they're once again, they're trying to chase you down. Shh, shh. Now look, I'm not saying, by the way, real quick, I'm not saying that we need to go Nat Turner. We ain't ready for that. We're trying to build a nation. We gotta put some stuff in order to make sure that we stay long enough to be the nation we're supposed to. How you doing, Sister Erna? Right? Hear what I'm saying, though? They're running behind you. Shh, shh, don't talk about Nat Turner. Why? Because Nat Turner did what he did because he found out that the Bible says his people should be free. He read Exodus. He read about, for the first time, they kept it from him. He was reading about all this stuff in the Bible, but didn't realize that, wait a minute, there are a people that are enslaved, and the Most High is not okay with you continuing to be in bondage. And when you try to get out, they're quick to try and run after you and say, come back, come on, do what you're supposed to do. They're quick to get those with Sambo spirits. So every time we say something, they'll send, and they're usually going to try to get one of our sisters, because you know our sisters are cornerstones of many of our communities, and they're quick to try and get one of our sisters and then try to get a brother behind her and make sure that they start tap dancing and start bow changing and start stepping fetching. All we do is mention what a people look like, and somebody will be quick to say, oh, see, I knew you guys, isn't that, or what, it's not about color. You're right, it's not about color. So we should have never lied about it in the first place. You made it about color when you added to, and the Bible says if you add to or take away from it, that's Revelation chapter 22, verse 18. If you add to or take away from the revelation, then the plague shall be added unto you. Here you are taking away from what the word says, and then getting upset when somebody just simply says, oh yeah, you know, this is who he was from. We can actually trace who he is. We can trace his lineage. We can trace the chosen people. We should make sure that we do what it says. And therefore, those who want to be grafted and do what we do, we become a nation. Because nation's not based off of color anyway. But you got to know who the tree is that you graft into. Shalom, how you doing, Sister Sabrina? All praises on that. Right? But persons get upset when you talk like that. Why are you so upset? When I simply show you what you said you believe in the Bible. You said Christ is your Savior. That's what you said. That's what you told me. Last time I checked, that's not my thing. You said he is your Lord. You said that you believe that there's one Lord, one faith, one baptism. You said you believe that every word in the Bible, well, up until this word. See, we're running out. We've separated. We're starting to separate. We're starting to have a different mindset. We're starting to get to the truth, and we do not want anything else other than. We do not want anything else. We used to have to accept it because you forced it on us. Now we want nothing other than the truth at all times. Matter of fact, it's not even one. We need, because we want for nothing. See, you used to tell us that we lack, but the Bible said we shall not want. And now we don't depend on a wicked system, and the wicked system is trying its hardest to hold you in there. Matter of fact, they'll make sure now that they come up with all types of technology to make sure it's easier to stay in the world. If you stay here, we'll make sure we feed you. We can feed ourselves. Well, yeah, but you know, you have to grow some stuff. That takes a while and all that stuff. Yeah, but why not just grow it ourselves? It's better to grow it ourselves and live forever and not even have to eat as much, because we don't even get what we're supposed to out of what you give us. It's better to just live off of what the Most High created. No. You know, that sounds nice and everything, but that's not what you're supposed to. What you mean? Explain it to me. What you talking? Right? How you doing, Matt Production? Explain it to me. If you do not mind, what in the world are you talking about that I should not know that 70% of what I see is edible? I told you I'm serious. At some point, I'm gonna try it out. I'm not saying you got to try it with me. At some point this year, I'm gonna try out eating just only off of what I see growing around. I'm gonna try it out. I don't know how long. It might only be a week or so. Something. I'm gonna make sure. I gotta do my research. My wife is a herbalist, of course, so that's gonna help. But I'm gonna try it out. Even if everybody around me eating something else, if we go somewhere, if we fellowship, if we go out to eat somewhere, we just gonna have to go somewhere where I can sneak in my own little pouch of stuff. But I'm gonna try it out for a long time, long enough to see if it, because what y'all says, if what he says is true, then I gotta start treating it like it's true. You said you're gonna try it out now. Well, just make sure you're prepared and you know what all these herbs are, what the colors are, what's this and what's that, and what might look like this. Or grow your own stuff first and just eat off of that, however you want to do. But I'm just saying, after a while, like it's what he says true, and we're starting to say like, well, like here's the deal for me. Even if you have a doubt, some of you might still have doubts to whether what the Most High says is true, or what you say we say the Most High says is true. Okay. Here's the thing though. I've been looking around long enough, and I'm like, well, y'all, what you guys are telling me definitely isn't true. See, when persons think that I just be coming off the cuff, I'm like, you guys know I went to your schools, right? Matter of fact, I've taught at some of your colleges. Matter of fact, I've spoken in some of your corporations. I've marched in some. Well, I haven't marched really in the protest, but you know, I was part of some of the stuff that happened behind the scenes with getting persons out of jail and prison and things of that nature. Um, I learned poetry from you all. Um, I learned to hate myself, if I want to be honest, right? But I learned a lot of stuff. I learned the importance of etymology through you all. I learned how to make sure that who you guys consider to be the best, so that I can make sure that I can always give somebody that's from your culture, so you guys can say, oh, okay, well if so and so said it, then maybe what he says is believe. Um, I was at a place to where I learned how to go through all that stuff, but I also have learned the truth. And I've learned that the truth that has been given unto me is greater than anything that you could ever try to present me. Right? I learned. I learned from the. If you want to say I learned from the best, fine, because you think you're the best. Fine. I learned from you until I found out that your best ain't better. Like real talk. I've seen these babies are going on social media and learning from Andrew Tate and learning from Sneeko and learning from who's your man. Even for real, if you're on the opposite side, everything that Abba and Preacher is talking about ain't necessarily the best. Telling you why when you get more money, it's actually better for you to, and it's understandable. You should start having sex with prostitutes and stuff and defending it. I'm talking about, I got a couple of my girls, a couple of my friends of the girls, they're into that too, and they tell you this is why blah blah. No, that's not cool either. Where is our standard? When we're consecrated, when we're separated. Once again, Exodus chapter 14 starts off by telling us to make sure that we do what? I'm sorry, Exodus chapter 13, excuse me. Starts off by telling us to do what? It tells us that we have to make sure that we sanctify the firstborn. Sanctify the things that Yah has given us. What he gave to you, what he allowed to be birthed through you, right? What he's going to protect, it must be sanctified. Matter of fact, let's look up this term, if you will. If you want to go into your if you want to go into your concordance, let's go in your concordance real quick. What does it mean to be sanctified? Quadas. Really, that word they're using, quadas, you might as well just make it quadash. Even chakadash. It means holy. When it says sanctified there, that's what the word sanctified always means anyway. Holy, whole, one, set apart, hallowed, consecrated, right? Here's another one that when you go to your concordance, I be forgetting about this one, but it makes sense because to the world, this is what it means. It also means tabooed. You know, if something is taboo, right? It's something that is kind of something that persons do, but you really not supposed to do it. And even if it's sometimes not even that bad, but the society looks on it the wrong way. Part of being holy means that to the world you're coming out of, to the bondage you're coming out of, to the kindred you're coming out of, to the modern Babylon you are coming out of, you will be tabooed. It is taboo to worship the Most High correctly. I always hear this stuff about, and this is because of Christian nationalism, and the Christian nationalism that is worldwide, not just the one in the United States, American, on the Bible Belt, stuff like that. But I always hear persons say, oh, if you're a Christian, you're the most oppressed person. I promise you, if somebody says they're a Christian and somebody says they're an Israelite, especially if you say you're a Hebrew Israelite, I promise you, you get way more flack for being a Hebrew Israelite than being a Christian. You know how? Because I was a Christian, knowing that I really was supposed to be a Hebrew Israelite. When as a Christian, I was preaching the same thing I preached as a Christian, but just began to use the actual name of the Most High. Christians started getting upset with me, or started saying, "Why are you talking about heathens?" And I had to be told, go do some research. If he says Yeshua, that's what I was saying back then, because that's the safest one to use. I didn't say Yeshua, and persons started losing their mind. Yeah, you said your sons, yeah, and I thought, yeah, well, yeah, your sons, yeah, you're afraid of those things. And by the way, can, this is where it gets real. You're being taken out. Remember, as you're coming out of Kemet, if I may, as you are coming out of Kemet, as you're coming out of bondage, remember that there had to be 40 years due to disobedience, and the disobedience came from the mindset of a people that still could not trust the Most High for who they were. And so generations, at least one generation if you want to go there, but generations of persons, basically nobody except for Joshua's family, Caleb's family, right, except for those two, everybody else had to die off before we could go into the kingdom. That's right, there's division in the home. Luke chapter 12, verses 51 through 53. Do not forget, right? Do not forget that persons had to die off. You said, can I enlighten you as to what a true Hebrew Israelite is? Well, before we even use terms like Hebrew Israelite, although an Israelite by definition is a Hebrew, that's all that means, right? Like, for example, so first of all, if we're talking about Hebrew Israelite, just as far as what persons should be. Now, once again, it's kind of like saying somebody's a Christian, to be fair, or somebody saying like somebody this, whatever, as far as their different sects, right? SECTS. Right. That being said, if one says they're Hebrew Israelite, all you're saying is you come through the lineage of Hebrew, you come through the lineage of Israel. In other words, Adam, which is man, that's what Adam means. Adam gave birth to Seth. Right. Seth is supposed to be the one who is supposed to get us back on track, and then Seth gives birth to Enos, which technically his name was actually the second Adam. But anyways, Enos, right, and then Enos gives birth to Canaan, who's supposed to take possession of what Cain did when he took out, Abel, and then you have Canaan who gives birth to Machalal, who is supposed to be all praises to Elohim, all praises to Elohim, therefore gives birth to Jared. Jared is supposed to be the one who is dedicated. Dedicated, Jared gives birth to Jared who gives birth to, who is Jared? Because Enoch is dedicated, sorry. Jared is, I'm having a moment. If we need it, it'll come to me. I forget in the moment what Jared means. But anyways, Jared gives birth to Enoch. Enoch means dedicated, right? Dedicated gives birth to Methuselah. Methuselah means basically the one who straighted the arrow, or the one who's supposed to hit the target. In other words, not sin, right? Jared gives birth to, Methuselah. Did I say Methuselah? Yeah, Methuselah. I'm saying the right person now. Yeah, Methuselah, right? Methuselah gives birth to, and I'm using modern pronunciation for these names, by the way. Methuselah gives birth to Lamech. Lamech, talking about strength. Strength gives birth to Noah. Noah meaning rest. Noah gives birth to Japheth, Shem and Ham. Shem, if you keep going through the same dialect, so that's everybody now is Shemitic, because now we're just talking about names. That's why you're Shemitic. So if you come out of Shem, you're Shemitic. So Shem gives birth to Arphaxad, who doesn't necessarily know who he is, but by the end of his life knows enough to be because of who he is, because he's paused and think about it. He gives birth to his son named Salah, or Salah, pause and think about it. Salah gives birth to Hebrew. Right? Hebrew gives birth to Pelag, the second son. Pelag talks about when the earth split. Hebrew, by the way, means, that you go past territory, that you're constantly expanding. So constantly expanding gives birth to when the earth split, right? continue all the way down till you get to Terah. Terah gives birth to Abraham. Abraham gives birth to Isaac. Isaac gives birth to Jacob. Jacob is where we're going to get the promise through, who is ultimately Christ. Jacob, it turns into Israel. Therefore, you are Hebrew, Israelite, because you're Shemitic, because you're of Noah, because you're of Enoch, because you're of et cetera, right? So on that side, that's the simplistic way of looking at it, and we know who those people are just by looking at certain books, including a simple one, the easy one, like from Babylon to Timbuktu, right? Or looking even at what person said as far as monks that talked about those who were Moors and described how they looked, and even how the Israelites of the day looked, who were part of the Moorish movement. Or if we go to Oluwadah Ikriano, or if we talk about Flavius Josephus, or et cetera, right? So Hebrew Israelite is just talking about nation. Matter of fact, if you look up what the word Negro meant during the Spanish Inquisition, which was in Spain and Portugal, and in the 1550s up until 1555, who was actually called Negro, they were known as being swarthy. They had locks. They were persons who did not believe in being bisexual. They were big on marriage. They followed the Torah. They wore hoodies, and they were on street corners, and they put poetry over music, et cetera, right? So we have things that tell us who they are. Now, all those things being said, that's the physical side of things. Now, right now, Israel is important spiritually as well, because according to Genesis 28, Jacob, who becomes Israel, has a dream that many of you know about Jacob's ladder. And when it comes to Jacob's ladder is basically where the angels in his dream are coming in. I have a ladder that's going out of his head, basically, up into the heavens, and then they're also coming from down the heavens, going back into him. He wakes up and realizes the importance of this dream. He builds a pillar off of the rocks that he was sleeping on, right? The rock himself, right? Makes a pillar, right? Later will come back and put a second pillar there when his name is Israel. So with Jacob, he puts the first pillar, comes back later on, right? After those 20 years dealing with the whole situation of having to work off marriage and all that, and the debt to Laban and all that, he comes back and puts the second pillar there. And then that place is called Bethel, the same place that is Bethlehem, right? City of bread, right, where Christ is born. Same place that possibly, now this is possibly, quite possibly, when the Satan takes him to some rocks and says, hey, turn you, if you be who you say you are, turn these stones into bread, quoting Deuteronomy. All right? But spiritually speaking, in Genesis 28, Israel is supposed to be where heaven meets earth. That's what Jacob said. He said, as long as the Most High is with me, and as long as what I see is there, and as long as this territory is there, everybody that comes through this place where I make this pillar of Bethel, will be the entryway to where my children will be. And this whole territory that he's shown me will be where heaven meets earth. Therefore, any of my children will represent this. As long as the Most High is with us, we will be with him. This is our covenant. He makes a covenant right there. From that point on, Israel is the only nation, right? Besides, if you want to say, well, Adam, technically, but then Adam sinned, so we didn't really have a long period with that. That being said, Israel is the only nation to have ever been built 100% supposed to be based off of the true word. Now, Israel later on, who cannot be forgotten, right? Even according to Romans chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, right, where we have an advantage. Even according to Romans chapter 7, where we know that the law is holy, the law is perfect, the law is without sin. However, our problem is that we got the other cultures, but we went away from the law, so the law was not the law of the spirit, it was the law of the sin that even happens and calls us out for that, Romans chapter 9 and Romans chapter 10. Right, but in Romans chapter 11, even those who are grafted into the kingdom, we all be in the kingdom of heaven, they still will become Israel ultimately, the 144,000 mentioned in Revelation chapter 7, and even those of all nations that are grafted in Revelation chapter 7 as well, after Israel is sealed. Therefore, Revelation chapter 11, we know who the 144,000 are reintroduced to us again. We even have them reintroduced to us talking about how we're standing with him, and we have the Ode of Moses that we sing in Revelation chapter 14 and Revelation chapter 15. So, just because you're born of Israel doesn't mean that you perform everything to the advantage. So if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're still wrong. Right? You can be born Israel by the flesh and still be of the Satan. Right? Now somebody else who would explain it another way, hey, I'd have to see what they say. But that's what the Bible says. I'm not here to give you my opinion or what I do because of what I feel. Right? Because I have to do it. I have to be obedient whether I feel like it or not. Right? That's right. Their best ain't to stand. Come on. How you doing, Christ? Right? So that's what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about a Hebrew Israelite. Somebody else might be trying to take it to something else, and once again, there'll be many persons that say that they are us and are not. We all oftentimes think about that as only being, you know, Ashkenazi, but there are many persons who say they are us and are not, including some of our own brethren. Like we say all the time, not all skin folk is kinfolk. Matter of fact, when you read from Babylon to Timbuktu, that's once again that's an easy book for you. That's light, right? That'll get you started. And if you just take that seriously, now there are things that they get a little bit that's a little wonky. And by the way, I think they even admit that we may or may not know this, right? It's been a little while. I'm actually going through. My wife and I are going to be reading. Well, technically we're going to be traveling, so we're probably doing an audio book a lot. But yeah, it's a great book to kind of start with, and you'll get some things, and you'll even see where some of these theories come from that maybe you're not aware of. That being said, yeah, it has a lot in there, especially when you start talking about well, we actually know where Israelites even went to during Rome when Rome was being destroyed. They didn't go into Europe like that. Some of them went to certain places, but even if you look at the Asiatic places they went by Revelation chapters 2 and 3, those 7 places, those are more Eastern Rome than even Western Rome. Right? We have this mindset that, you know, everything was happening over in Europe. No, that's way later. You're going to even get persons who have become who have taken the culture and started to call themselves that, and even started to then start saying, no, we are them only and nobody else can be. That happens hundreds of years later. If you actually see where we went and where we were escaping to, we actually really, most of us started going into places like Morocco, started going into places like Kush, right? Eventually making our way to West Africa. Matter of fact, if you look up Zephaniah and Zechariah, you'll discover that we were going across waters. If you do your research on the waters, we're going from Eastern Africa over into Western Africa, way back then. If you do some research on the Ivory Coast, there was no ivory there the way you think of it. It actually comes from a word named Ifrit, right? The same word that they used to actually use before there was a word that now you know is Igbo. It used to be Ifrit. Those persons came through there, right? I am one of those persons whose family comes, right, on my maternal side from the Ifrit coast. I'm here to tell you, there was no ivory. It was Avda, or what we now call Ifrit, or that was the way you said in the Bible, we would say Ebre instead of Hebrew. That's the way that we said Hebrew. It's a dialect. Ifrit, or Ifrit. It comes from the original word Avda. Avda is how we actually said Hebrew back in the day. So, like I said, you got to separate something. You said, is all of Africa ham? No, that's literally, if I just was just talking about that there, then obviously that tells you some of it's Shemitic, obviously. And if you even want to go deep and go to what used to be even Japheth, not all of Japheth just went straight to Europe as one group. Right? Like if you know how long and deep, and even what your Bible talks about in Genesis when it starts talking about Japheth's lineage and stuff, it talks about the Celtic persons. Celtic persons, you know, stretch from Africa up to Ireland and Scotland. I speak fluent Hebrew. I don't speak. I'm not trying to learn modern Hebrew at all. Even though we learn it because we have to. Unfortunately, well, I won't even say unfortunately. I'm trying to learn Sephardic and Sephardic pronunciation, so I know more about the original pronunciation, the original enunciation, and even the original connotation, denotation, and even the pictorial or pictographs, the pictorial representation. So that's my mindset, is to go back to the origin. Because if I know the origin, then the other stuff, I don't have to worry about the change. See, if somebody uses modern Hebrew or even uses modern Hebrew language, those people who just made that up in the 1800s recently, right? Literally, you can go research it. We know, literally, when they tell you Hebrew was a dead language, they say they made it up, but if you go research how modern Hebrew came into being, you'll discover that they went to Sephardic Hebrews. And you might not know that Sephardic Hebrews are us. They went to Sephardic Hebrews, learned the stuff, and then changed all the pronunciation. So Hebrew was never a dead language, the original. If you speak something modern, that means that it's been changed. And according to the Most High, according to Christ, he tells us in Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 through 20, he says, do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I came that it might be fulfilled. The next verse he says, until heaven and earth passes away, we should not change one jot or tittle. The original would have actually said, until heaven and earth passes, we should not change the most minuscule measurements or even the way it is written. Verse 19 comes behind that and says that those who teach the law in its original form and learn it, all right, are considered to be the greatest, but those who do not teach it and tell others not to live by it, they're considered to be the least. And then he says you should know that law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees, because even in that time, the scribes and the Pharisees are trying to do more Greek stuff to appease the persons like Herod or Herod's children or even Roman governors, rather than make sure that they're doing what the Most High said. See, once again, we're escaping. And as we escape, Kemet is running after us. We're escaping, we're getting free, and they're running. They're running after you. You're learning the truth about your culture, your heritage. They're trying to stop you. Flee. Shema Yechadashah. Flee. Flee from wickedness. Stay separate. Stay consecrated. Stay holy. Stay Adash. Right? It'll be taboo for you to do so, but stay holy. Stay separated. Stay sanctified. Right? You said you know that? Okay. All right, I'm glad you do. I can't stop, won't stop. No diddy though. Right, but you're gonna be considered to be taboo if you're in the Word. The world looks at what we do as taboo. You know, the way that we look at, see, watch this. When we say, do not commit fornication, the world is like, oh man, you're just trying to take away fun. The word fornication actually comes from a Greek word that you're more familiar with in another way, porneia, which actually is said another way as pornography. Pornography is a false image of marriage. So anything that's a false image of marriage that comes against marriage as far as the kingdom is concerned, we stay away from it. The world says, oh, that's taboo. Oh, you're not trying to have fun. Oh, you're trying to take away our sexuality. Oh, you're trying to have hold over our bodies. Why is it that we can't experience, blah, blah, whatever. And then they get older, and then they want to come in front of you and be like, man, I did all those things. I'm here to tell you, all those things will really get you pleasure and get you happiness. Then what was wrong with us telling you that in the first place? It's taboo to be righteous. We've been saying this. Y'all just getting on this and then trying to appropriate it. But we inappropriate because we're not going to let you just take our stuff and try to change it into something different. We've been telling you that sex is marriage, marriage is sex. That's why you only have sex with one person, because whoever you become one with, your body even starts to change to remain one with that person eternally. We've been saying that. Now you got some science to go ahead and back it up. But the Most High told you not to do it in the first place. It is written, so let it be written, so let it be done. That's the way we should think about these things, but we don't think about these things properly because we think through the prism of others who, once again, are trying to cause our demise and our destruction. Come on, somebody. Right? If I'm lying, once again, if I'm lying, feel free to show me the lie. This is the part that really gets me. If I'm telling you something that you cannot look up, or something that's not even in your word, for those of you who say that the Bible is your canon, if I'm telling you something that is not canonical, then feel free to go ahead and come against it. If I'm mentioning names that you cannot look up for yourself, feel free to come against it. If I'm saying something, right, and even this is when it gets to a place at a certain point, if I might be honest. I'm not trying to say I'm all that in this. I'm just being honest because y'all don't do this with other persons, right? Jordan Peterson was giving y'all a bunch of stuff, and some of it was cool. A lot of it was slop, but y'all didn't care because of that, the way that man looked and the school that man went to, right? Okay. Obama came in and told you all this stuff, never did anything for the people that he said he was going to do anything for. He was still sending people back to. He was sending people back to Mexico too. Matter of fact, he was sending more back. He was killing people with drones. Nobody said anything. Matter of fact, you defended it. Because he fit into your system and what you wanted and what you said was going to be done. Then he left, and what happened to your people? What happened to your community? Any change? Yeah, he changed because he got us some phones. Really? Really? Because he got us some phones. Okay. All right. That's what we doing. Right? Right? Obama was a sellout. Trump selling y'all out. Biden sold you. Matter of fact, Biden was probably more innocent. Biden was more honest with y'all because Biden made it a point to tell you that he told you that black folk had no history. That's what he believes. Remember, we just went over his mass who he buried and he preached at his, he spoke at his burial in 2010. So I believe it was 2010. Told y'all that was his mass. That was his mentor. And in the 90s, he was the one telling y'all super predators, get rid of anything. Nobody should be on food stamps. He said, get rid of it all because these super predators, these black folk, they're getting too much. Y'all forgot though because, you you Democrat or Republican. What's his face? Who was the one that told you that that all you got to do to make sure that a white man, these colonial social constructs, he's the one that said all you got to do to make sure that a white man will give you whatever, will give you everything in his pocket is to tell him that he's better than black folk. Who was that? Lyndon Johnson? But y'all will give Lyndon Johnson all this praise or whatever because he was forced into having to sign the thing with MLK looking over his shoulder. JFK stopped the movement where so-called black persons were coming to DC to tear it up. It was about to be wartime. And he got MLK and told MLK, look, and MLK, I think rightfully so made a decision because he didn't want to see his people off. But they told him, look, either you're going to take over this event and we're going to put money in your pocket and y'all are going to make this about peace, or we're going to kill everybody that shows up all over DC and it's going to be on the news. What you want to do about it? And now you vote Democrat because JFK loved black folk. That's not how that worked. That's not how that worked at all. George Washington never told a lie. And when you go to Monticello, you see his teeth. But then when you look at those teeth, you got all types of things in there. And then you forget that that's like the fifth set of teeth. And the four sets before that were made out of many a thing, including not just wood, but also including wire and the teeth of slaves that he ripped out of their mouth. But I'm supposed to be down with George Washington because he was a man of integrity, pious. How you doing, D? Man of integrity, pious, a great man. What? How you doing, Autry? Thanks for being part of the community. No. You said I'm Dr. Umar if I was a pastor, but prayerfully I have more integrity. And prayerfully I won't be sleeping around with persons telling me how to sleep around with them. Prayerfully I'll be faithful to one wife. Prayerfully I'll serve the Most High. But I get you. There are some things that we're definitely similar in, for sure. Right? If I'm the actual true Garvey, prayerfully I'll be there. If I'm actually Frederick Douglass family, then I'll actually be there. Yeah. There's some things that Dr. Umar can improve. I don't want to be the whole black and the black is always right and wicked and white is always whack. That's foolishness too. That being said, trying to make sure that we comprehend that you are separated, you are being sanctified, you are being cleansed. Do you not know that when the Bible talks about cleanliness means lawfulness? You and your wife were just talking about that last night. All praises. Which one was also made? Oh, George Washington, definitely Mason. Right. By the way, even though George Washington is not your first president, but technically technically he's not, but y'all want to say he is. Okay. Well, number one was a Virginia slave owner. Thomas Jefferson was a Virginia slave owner. Number 3. Number 4, Madison was a Virginia slave owner. Number 5 was a Virginia slave owner. Now, technically, number 2 and number 6, Adam and Adams Jr., if you will, Quincy Adams, were not Virginia slave owners, but they worked under Virginia slave owners, and everybody who was in the White House had to have slaves that worked under them. That's who did the work in the White House. The White House was the manor, and Washington, D.C. was the field. And if you still go on DC, go on the trains in DC and go come up from a place called Foggy Bottom. Foggy Bottom is where the slaves were because Foggy Bottom, that was the swamp that we lived in. Matter of fact, all of DC is technically a swamp, but they keep it up really nice. When you get separate from this and you start seeing what's going on, you got to start asking yourself some questions. And when somebody says, oh, you're questioning too much, that's when I got to look at you weird. When somebody starts saying, why are you talking about the truth? Nobody needs to know about that. You're just causing the ruckus. No. Your Messiah, if you believe Christ is your Messiah, allow me to go here. This was mentioned earlier by a sister on here earlier, but allow me to go back here real quick. Leviticus. Our focal verses for these teachings, for the last one today and tomorrow, has been Leviticus 23, 4 and 5. But if I might take you to Luke chapter 12, verse 51, Luke chapter 12, this is your Messiah speaking. This is Christ speaking. He asked a question. He said, suppose ye, which is actually a lawful thing. He's talking about a supposition, but nevertheless, suppose ye, all praises. He said, suppose ye that I came, that there might be peace. In other words, in this covenant that we're going to get into, do you believe that the covenant, and thank you for the love, in this covenant we're about to get into, do you believe that the covenant that I brought brings about peace? That's the question of your Messiah. If you say that Christ is your Messiah, Yeshua Mashiach is your Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach is your Messiah, he asked you a question. And remember, we talked about this in the 7 Last Words series already. For those who've been on with us, when we talked about when he said, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, or my Elohim, why has thou forsaken me? The question, if he knows all, is not for him. The question is for you. And you need to know what he's talking about. Am I saying there's a covenant? Of course there's a covenant. There's always been one covenant. We lost covenant, and the goal is to make sure that we come back into covenant. Old and New Testament, or Old and New Covenant is something somebody just wrote in recently. Right? That being said, if we're talking about covenant, right? He said, suppose ye, this is what Christ said, do you think that I came that there would be peace? That's the question. Luke chapter 12, verse 51. What is his response? His response is not, yes, of course I came that there would be peace. No. How you doing, real empress? His response is, nay, no. I didn't come that there would be peace. I came that there might be division. Wait a minute, Christ didn't come to cause a divide. That's what Christ said. Christ said I didn't come so that we'd all be in agreement. Christ said I came because I'm about to start dividing. I'm about to start sanctifying. I'm about to start having Goshen. I'm going to have Goshen and I'm going to have Kemet. I'm going to have righteousness and I'm going to have unrighteousness. I'm going to have those who are children of the Most High and children of the devil. Because you know the Bible says that there are some of you that are children of the devil. There are some places where the Bible says that some of your leaders that you love to be under, that they are their father, their source, their Abba is a Satan. Come on, somebody. I know it's difficult. But you know, father means source. And some of you getting your stuff from the devil. Some of you getting it from that second beast. Some of you are into Antichrist stuff and haven't gone through the proper channels to ensure that you are coming out of the wicked river that you've been flowing through. Oh, yeah. Some of you believe that we should not tell the truth about the Bible. Some of you are going to go places to where you could tell them the same truth with the same stuff, with the same scriptures, and they're going to sit up there and tell you, no, not really. Truth always. Come on. You got a lot of persons that are ready to tell you why the Bible is wrong. This is why, once again, we should not opine. I'm not here to give you my opinion. If I just give you how I feel or what I feel about something, I can feel different tomorrow. But regardless of how I feel, if I am consistent in doing what I'm called to do, which is to present this particular word that should be used to evangelize, then that means it doesn't change. And persons who change, they love to keep changing the word. Christ said, your Messiah said, Luke chapter 12, verse 51, do not suppose, right? If you suppose that I came that there might be peace, you are wrong. He said, I did not come to give you peace. He said, I came that there would be division. He said, 2 would be in one house against 3, and 3 would be in one house against 2. He said, mother will be against daughter, and father against son, and mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, father-in-law against son-in-law. In other words, when he brings truth, a lot of persons in your family, some of the persons that you're in a relationship with, some of the persons that you thought you were going to be together forever with, forever, you thought. But then forever ain't going to exist because they don't want to come into the knowledge of truth. How you doing, our crowd? Thanks for being part of the community. Real talk, real spill. Yeshua, the Messiah, he says himself, out of his mouth, if you believe, once again, that it's canon. Now, once again, somebody, in order for this word to not be true, you have to say that the Bible is not so. And that's why a lot of persons have to start switching up. But if you say that you believe that, and you believe he's your Messiah, and you believe that everything, a lot of y'all say, it's in red, right? And I'm not mad at that. But a lot of persons go, it's in red, it's in red. Well, if it's in red, you're saying Christ said it. The Anointed One said it. Yeshua said it. Messiah said it. Right? All right. Well, if he said it, and you say he's your king, you say spiritually he's your husband, you say you're putting oil in your lamp, ready for him to come back and get you after in Matthew 25:5, after what he told you to do in Matthew, or he would do for you and you should do for him in Matthew 24, right? Well, then if he said it, then why won't you do what he said? That's why that Antichrist spirit is something else. You got to separate. Come out of Kemet. They're chasing you, like we said earlier. They're chasing you. Kemet is chasing you because they lost the ones that they built upon, and the ones that built everything for them had to be separate from the one that they worship. I'm going to say that again, because as much as everybody wants to tell you this is not a thing, this is about worship. All this stuff is about worship. All this stuff we're dealing with is about worship and who you're worshiping. Even for you guys who say you're atheists. Watch this. The scientist says that I'm into evolution. I don't worship any gods or anything like that. Here's the problem. The one that started Darwinism worships. I'm going to say it again. I'm not into science and anything. I'm a scientist. I'm just strictly scientific. If it's not scientific, it doesn't hold water. These persons are into worship. You have the mindset that scientists don't believe in anything. And certain scientists who are telling you they don't believe in anything, well, if you listen to what they say, they seem to have belief in things, right? And they have faith, and then they try to work things in faith. Even if they give you things that are theoretical, hyper-theoretical, and theories are not fact. Matter of fact, even scientifically, a theory has to make sense scientifically. And if they're telling you something that's theoretical, but they cannot actually bring any proper scientific notation into it, it does not even qualify as a theory, yet you live by things. Now, if it's been disproven, why are you still living by it? By the way, why do you live by gravity when gravity has been displaced by the theory of relativity? You have a faith in something, you work in something, and it's not even real. It's been disproven. Because gravity doesn't just mean what comes up must come down. Gravity doesn't mean you just get hit in the head. Gravity is supposed to say what causes everything to be in place. It's a theory that was disproven. By the way, Einstein's theory of relativity has been disproven as well. Those who keep talking about the God particle, the Higgs particle has just given more questions. They didn't prove anything with that. All it proved is, okay, he got some mathematical stuff correct, but what he thought it was is not the end-all be-all. You went from atom to subatomic of the subatomic to now I forget what you doing with those things now. What the new one is, where it's the lowest one, and then there's subs of that and all that stuff. Because the deeper you get into it, the more you realize you don't know. Back to Darwinism, though. Darwinism was created by somebody who worshipped the moon. He worshipped Easter. He worshipped Ishtar. Once again, I'm not talking about that, right? Once again, not talking about that. No offense, no shade. Once again, though, what keeps everything in place is supposed to be the theory of gravity. What keeps everything? Everything is bigger than the earth. No shade, just saying. Like I promise you, right? And I'm not even the greatest scientist, so if I'm wrong on that per se, but that's what they said when. That's one of the things when you go back and read about the theory of relativity and how it was a big deal, is because he was basically saying Sir Isaac Newton, his theory was wrong. And then a lot of persons who made a lot of money and were still presenting things and saying it had to be what Sir Isaac Newton said, were going to stand on that ledge until finally, eventually, nobody could deny it. And even after the theory of relativity was put in place, persons still kept saying, no, the theory of relativity is wrong. And by the way, we know there's certain parts of what Einstein was saying was wrong too. What I'm saying, though, is that there's something that the Most High says that's not theoretical. There are things, right, even things that we talk about science, but once again, my point on Darwinism is a system that was created, right? ISM system, makes it a system. Darwinism. Now, Darwin's system, Darwin's book, 1859, is not only based off of his worshiping of the moon, right? That's what he actually did. And by the way, Darwin's degree, the only degree, even though it was paid for by his family, he didn't really earn it. But the only degree Darwin actually got was a degree in what I do now. He's supposed to be a preacher. Right? And he came to preach something. Now, what did he preach when he preached Darwinism, when he wrote Darwinism? Right? Well, Darwinism is something, when we come out off his book, written in 1859, it's called The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or The Survival of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. Sorry, actually, I said it wrong. It's The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or The Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. Meaning that Darwin believes that if you go into his next book written in 1871, or at least the next big one that was written in 1871, what you discover is that Darwin is saying that, hey, all of us come from different races, because you got to go back to Carl Linnaeus. It's Linnaean doctrine. It's even written on the front of his book. It's Linnaean doctrine. Carl Linnaeus believes that different species are in a race, right? And so different races, they're all in competition. Then the species and races are interchangeable. Then they began to tell you there are different races or species of human, because the Linnaeus said the white race came from this animal, and the yellow race came from this animal, and the red race came from this animal, and the black race came from this animal. Now, Darwin takes that further if you read that book in 1859 and expands that to different races, not just being those four colors, but even more of them. And then later on tells you in another book that his belief is that the so-called white race will evolve so much from the black race that eventually the gap between the white race and the black race will be the same gap between the black race and the gorilla. That's what they taught, right? That's the science behind it. Now, right, the science behind it. Now, watch this. His cousin / brother-in-law, Galton, comes up and says, "Okay, we're gonna take this thing. We're gonna take this thing that you call today, that they called back then. We're gonna take this thing called eugenics, and we're gonna use eugenics not to be able to talk about Darwinism." He says we're going to take eugenics and use it as a tool to speed up that process. If the creator of all, who Darwin prays to, has made it to where he's got this information to where there has to be a gap in between the white man to the black man and the black man to the gorilla, he says, well, let's do it whatever we can to speed it up. Out of those things come things that now today you call IQ tests, to make sure that the gap is sped up. That's Darwinism. That's what you use when you're talking about evolution. You're talking about a lunatic, lunar worship. That's right. That's what a lunatic is. That's why lunatics are considered to be crazy, because a person said, well, why are you worshiping Ishtar or Easter? And we don't look at persons like that nowadays, but persons are about to worship the same Ishtar, the same Easter. I wonder if we should call them lunatics. I wonder if they fit the same category. I wonder if somebody who's busy pumping your head with evolution, this, that, et cetera, maybe we should look at them the same. See, the more I separate, the more somebody has to run behind. They say, hey, come back here, we need you. See, when you're the remnant, and the remnant is supposed to try and get out of the world and come into the kingdom. How you doing, Brother Warren? Oh, my greetings. See, this stuff had to be taught, and it was taught and taught over again and over again and over again. That's why we got to sanctify these babies, sanctify these that are born again, sanctify these ones that are coming out. Exodus chapter 13 says, sanctify the firstborn child and the firstborn of animal. Sanctify any firstborn of Israel. Sanctify these babies. Sanctify what's getting into their mind. Sanctify those that are born again, these babies in the spirit. We got to start sanctifying. We got to start separating. Because Kim is going to come back looking for you. And the ones that are protected are the ones that are sanctified. Hello, somebody. Come on, somebody. Right? We got to sanctify. We got to set apart. We got to make it hakodash. We got to make it quadash, kedesh, etc. We got to make it holy. We got to make it quadash. We got to make it holy. We got to make it holy. There's got to be holy. There's got to be one. Remember, this word one, holy, put a W before that H. Got to be one. W-H-O-L-Y. Holy. If it's integrated. See, this is why when people talk about segregation, we missed the mark on this. To be integrated means to become one. To have integrity means to be one, to be integrated. If you have, and look, I know, you're in the land of the free, home of the brave, because you think that free means that everybody can do whatever they want, forgetting that, hey, Greeks conquered the world while telling everybody they were free. Romans conquered the world while telling everybody they were free. America has all the territories telling everybody they're free. The United Kingdom conquered the globe telling everybody in all the colonies that they were free. Right? You swear up and down that you're free because you can worship whatever you want, as if you're still not making sure you're giving your tithes and offering and your debt and all that stuff in your life and several lives and the mortgages, gauging your mortality and all this to them. You swear you're free. Time to come out. Right? Look, just because you can work, look, in integrity, if something is integral, if something is truly integrated and everything is one, then there are not multiple spirits being worshipped. Oh wow, Brother Cole. Okay, I'll check in with you. Matter of fact, right now we'll take a quick break. I'll check in with you. Heavenly Father, we thank you right now for guidance, for health, for strength, for love, for honor. We thank you for Brother Cole's heart. We thank you for what you've done with his mother. We thank you for him being in a position to make sure that he's taking care of his mother. We ask for her to be healed. We ask for the doctor's hand to be swift. We ask ultimately that your will be done. I'm out. All right, I'll try to check on you later, big girl. All right, love you. Hopefully all is well. Tell Mama we prayed for and that we're gonna pray for her again. And I'll check on you guys soon. We're gonna be busy on the road and stuff, but I'll make sure I check on you, even if it's just via text. You know, me recording myself speaking and checking on you. I'll check in with you. How you doing? Check in. Bavkasha, as always. Yeah. Sorry. So like we gotta separate. Where was I at? Excuse me. Not sorry at all. Actually. Just excuse me. Get back on track. Where were we at? What was the last thing we were talking about? Being separate, Darwinism, all these things. My apologies. No apologies. Let me stop. Gratitude, being thankful. No. Holiness, being free. Thank you. Tada. All right. Tada. Yeah. So integrity means that we are one. You can't have multiple belief systems and have integrity. I know somebody don't want to hear that. Watch this. Let me deal with you as an individual. You ready? What is cognitive dissonance? That's right, children of the Most High. We got to separate, right? What is cognitive dissonance, beloved? One Elohim, one kingdom, right? What is cognitive dissonance? Is when I have competing ideas, competing ideologies, right, in my head, right? Matter of fact, somebody doesn't like it when I say it that way. So let's do this. Let's just look up definition. We'll do a Google search. Definition of cognitive dissonance. So we can have an agreeable one so you guys don't say, I don't like that one. How about this? Cognitive dissonance, right? Quick, first thing that just pops up. I'm just going to use it. Some of you not going to like whatever definition anyways. But cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort experienced when holding two or more conflicting beliefs, values, or attitudes, or when behavior clashes with beliefs. Developed by Leon Festinger, so we go by what he developed. This psychological conflict creates tension that motivates people to reduce it by changing their beliefs, justifying their actions, or ignoring the conflict. Let's do that one more time. Cognitive dissonance. What's cognitive dissonance? Google search, right? Based on what Leon Festinger teaches, or what he put together. It's supposed to be his thing, supposedly. I don't know for sure if he's the first one to come up with it, but he's the one credited. So I'm just going off of what I got in front of me, right? Cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort experience. It's what? It is mental discomfort. It is what? It is mental discomfort. When somebody is uncomfortable in discomfort mentally. Why? Why are they mentally in discomfort? It is mental discomfort experienced when holding two or more conflicting beliefs, values, or attitudes, or when behavior clashes with beliefs. Developed by Leon Festinger, this psychological conflict creates tension that motivates, this tension, this discomfort, causes persons to do what? Motivates people to reduce it by changing their beliefs, justifying their actions, or ignoring the conflict. So what happens is because you have competing beliefs and you're trying your best to say all of it, you can do whatever you want and sprinkle some Jesus on it. That's what y'all do. We're not talking about Yechashua, right? A lot of y'all be talking about Jesus. It's a different person altogether, right? Talking about that accessory abortion. Talking about why it's okay to not follow the law. All this different stuff, right? Okay. Well, because you have competing beliefs, what happens is you are in discomfort mentally. Something in you knows enough. You know enough etymology. You know something in you doesn't make sense. You know that you shouldn't be doing it. You can't say that you follow the Most High and the Most High says don't celebrate Christmas, right? And so but you say I want to celebrate Christmas. I celebrate Christmas, but you say Jesus is the reason for the season. But Yehoshua couldn't have even been born right around that time, and that's not even Yehoshua's name. So what do you have to do? You have to start to do things like say, well, that's Old Testament, right? What do? According to Leon Festinger, this psychological conflict, this cognitive dissonance, this double-mindedness causes you, right, or motivates you to reduce it, right? Because you don't want the sickness, you don't want the discomfort, you don't want the dis-ease. So what do? You say, I'll reduce it by doing what? Changing your belief. When you change your belief, you use it to justify your actions. And when you justify your actions, you can start ignoring the conflict. Come on, right? If you change your belief, then you can justify your actions, and then you can ignore the conflict. All right, watch this. It's crazy of me to say that a country based off of racism, white supremacy, has never existed or has never had something called racism because racism is a myth. But it bothers me whenever anybody says anything about it because if I truly believed it, it wouldn't bother me at all. Or I would just say they're stupid and I would move on. But I have to fight with them because I have this conflicting belief. It causes tension. So because of that tension in my head, what do I have to do? Because of that SBS or that tension in my head, what do I have to do? I have to reduce it by changing my belief. What do I believe racism to be? Then it justifies my actions. Now, if I do something racist, but I say, hey man, racism never existed, and I didn't even participate in whipping people and doing this. I've never owned a slave. So who cares if I make money off slavery? Or who cares if white person look better? Or who cares if I say, hey, white people are the ones who are actually the minority, and we're the ones that are being attacked? Who cares? Right? I can change my belief. I can justify my actions, and now I can ignore the conflict. I don't even see color. Why are you bringing that to me? I don't even see color. I've already told you I changed my belief. I changed what racism is. Isn't that? See? And we lose numbers when we talk about that, but it's real. Well, how you doing, Jen? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Big? I don't know if we say it right. Big X New, Big X New, Big X New. I don't know how to say it. Thank you for being on. Appreciate you. Thanks for being part of the community. Right? That's how cognitive dissonance works. It's a psychological conflict. The conflict is based off of this mental discomfort that I experience because I have two or more conflicting beliefs. So if you have true integrity, you only live by one belief system. That's what integrity is. If I'm supposed to treat my wife with respect, I don't change the belief so that I can justify the actions of being disrespectful, and then when she says something about it, ignore the conflict. If I say I believe in the Bible, then I don't change my belief because I don't like that part of the Bible, so I can justify my actions, so I can ignore the conflict. That's cognitive dissonance. That's double-minded. That's how it's affecting those who are trying to change the kingdom. That's right, these contrarian ideas. I got something in my hair. Let me see. Got a seed in my hair. All praises. Planting seeds. That's the truth. How you doing, Dan T? So the enemy is running after you because you got out. He's upset that you're coming out of foolishness. He's upset that colorism is not your God. He's upset that you're not going to argue about what is. If it says this, then that's what it says. And he's upset that you're actually learning etymology. He's upset that you're learning the truth. He's upset that you're saying, wait a minute, if there's a version of the Bible, where is there an original? If you say that his name is Jesus and there wasn't even the letter J in Hebrew, then what's his name? He's upset. He's running after you. You're getting, you're getting above your pay grade. You're getting too big for your britches. You're starting to say, wait a minute, it's possible for me to live on land and actually have it and it be in a trust or whatever you want to do with it. Oh yeah, they do this all the time. Wait a minute, it's all right for me to start building generational wealth, and I can't trust in them to do the generational wealth for me because here it is that they'll tell me to go ahead and sow into this. I'll lose all my money, but then meanwhile, they don't ever do what I do. Matter of fact, they know that money's not even real. Matter of fact, when you use your credit cards, right? Credit is not even really what it is because credit's supposed to be, hey, that I give you this because you already paid me. Credit is not I'm going to use something and then I'll have to pay you. Credit is I'll give you this because you already paid me. I'm supposed to take away from the credit. But you're supposed to build up credit by somehow some way going further into debt. The better you are at being a slave, the better you are at being in debt. But if you're going to use the credit cards in many ways, then make sure you use it righteously. Well, they got a 10%, and that's supposedly great. I didn't know the credit cards on a regular are like 40% interest. That being said, fine then. Use it to pay your bills and immediately pay those bills off. Don't leave anything on there. You still get credited. Pay it and immediately pay it off. That's kingdom. Not worldly, kingdom. Take that credit card, get a credit card if it's only got $50 on it, if it's got 200 on it, whatever. Take it, 200, okay, what's your phone bill? Pay your phone bill off and immediately pay it again. Pay it off of your credit. Once you know that it's back down to zero, because once again, you're not paying on stuff that's on the credit card. You're not paying just a random thing all the time. Now you got to make sure you check out who you're going through, right? Right? And this is not financial advice. I'm just trying to tell you how the kingdom works and how you should take it to other things. Don't take it to the credit. Don't sit up there and be like, oh, okay, I paid 200 because I just. If you can't pay it off, don't use the credit card because that's not real. But if you can, get the credit card, pay the $200, immediately pay the $200 off on the credit card, and guess what? When it's the end of the month and the time for that payment, you're going to pay $0, 0 cents because there's nothing on there for interest rates. You see how that works? Some persons don't even know that because they don't teach you about basic finance. Pay it off and have zero on there. Constantly pay it off. So just in case one of those times where they do catch you at the wrong time, then fine. If you had $50 still left on there and you didn't make sure it was at zero, then you only paying 40% on 50. And even though that's a whole lot of money, right? What is 40% of 50? 20, right? So you got to pay 70 instead of 50. Oh well, that's better than paying 80 on 200, right? We got to make sure we stay separate from the system and we stop thinking like them. They want you to be in credit card debt. They want to keep telling you, they want you to apply for 25 credit cards and hope that you get 10 of them, that you can go ahead and go $20,000 in debt. You'll be a slave for the rest of your life. You'll be a slave for the rest of your life. Kemet is running after you. They're trying their best to get you back in bondage. They're trying to get you to build that calf again. They're trying to get you to wander around for 40 years again. They're trying to get you to not believe that you can go ahead and do what y'all said and go into the land of Canaan and stop thinking that these persons are giants. Stop thinking that there's so much that you can't, that you haven't already conquered, that you haven't already won, that you have not already overcome. This world is something else. You are something else. This world is something else. All right, I'm done. For real, for real. Love y'all. We got to get ready to go. Prayerfully, if all is well, and if the creek don't rise and all that great stuff, we will see some of you guys in person and meet some of you, see some of you in just a little bit. We know some of y'all coming in tomorrow, so we're praying for your safe travels as well. Those of you who are going to meet up in different places or be at home, for Passover on April 1st. We'd love to see you guys come in. I'm trying to make sure I reach out to everybody that's been doing the shout out with us so we can make sure we get your information if you'd like to be on Zoom with us or if you'd like to just see things that we do outside of just, you see in the live sessions that we do. We do a lot of live sessions, we do a lot of teachings, but there's a lot of other things that we're doing for the kingdom. A lot of other persons on staff besides myself, a lot of other gifts, a lot of businesses you can sow into, a lot of stuff that you might be able to have sown into you as well. Because we got to separate, we got to be ready. And depending on somebody else, we can see really quickly. It ain't what they say it is, right? All praises. So if you'd like to stick around for the shout out, if you've never done a shout out or you'd like for us to get the shout out, I'm trying to be a lot better. I will not be able to start reaching out to anybody probably for another couple hours, but I will try my best to reach out to those I didn't get to catch up with yesterday. And we'll be back on this evening, same platforms, minus probably here, but we might be able to bring this back over here. But we'll be on at least TikTok, YouTube, Facebook later on at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. New York City time. If you'd like to join us for the continuation of the seven last words, it should be Minister Yasab this evening, preaching on the sixth word, which is it is finished. All praises. So if you'd like to be able to join us for that, we thank you for doing so. If you want to stick around for the shout out so you can get more information about what we do over here, just be patient with us a little bit. You got to come over to TikTok for that. If you joined us, by the way, on Fanbase, if you joined us from Fanbase, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Clapper, IG, and if I missed anybody on any platform that you came on today or are on right now, thank you for being on. I thank you so much for your participation. We cannot do this without a person such as yourself. By the way, those that are in Florida, if you're planning on coming down, please make sure Minister Raj and I think even more so Sister Taylor has been making sure that they've been reaching out to you guys to make sure that we're putting something together over there. So if you're going to be fellowshipping with them, please make sure they got your info and everything and that you got the spot. They should have lamb and everything together. That being said, they had to get everything based upon who got in touch with them. So if you're in the Florida area, you'd like to be able to meet up with them, they're going to be in the Tampa area. So if you'd like to meet up with them, let us know. For those of you who are going to be doing stuff in your different areas and leading the bigger groups, I'm going to make sure that you get some messages that are going to be coming to you the next couple of days to make sure we're all going to be on the same page. Some of the ministerial staff, I'm going to ask you guys to be prepared to pray over some things and maybe even come up with some scripture and stuff, but I might just have to do it on the fly. I'm going to try to make sure that we get you guys this information. You should see flyers coming out about it throughout the day as well. Once again, give me some hours or so to get myself kind of on the road and get some stuff together, and then we'll start, sending that stuff out. To Doc, thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. You're Tennessee bound. Be safe, everybody coming over to meet us in Tennessee. Please be safe. We're looking forward to seeing you. We're going to try, and if we can, if you'd like to get baptized, we're going to try and put together a little something for the baptism. Got to make sure that you got that. Got stuff that's presentable though, right? So when I'm putting you in the order, we're making sure you're putting it into the righteous way. But we thank you all once again. Tadach, we appreciate you. Hopefully all is well one more again. And we look forward to talking to you. So prayerfully, we'll see you this evening, 8 p.m. New York time or 8 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you for being on with us as we go through the seven last words. And if we don't see you this evening, we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time if you'd like to come back. Thank you again. If you want to stick around for the shout out, stick around on TikTok or just come over to TikTok and join us. To everybody, thank you for being on. To the moderators, ministerial staff, SOC, Lottie Dyer, and everybody. If you agree, disagree, whatever the case might be, thank you for being on with us. Also, too, if you feel led to give, feel free to go ahead and give. We have our stuff either in the description, in the bio, or even in our link tree if you'd like to be able to look for those things. So please feel free to do so if you would like to help us with what we do worldwide. And that's all that I have. So Tadach, thank you again, family. We appreciate you. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. And to all of us, remember, family, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, take care. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.